Chapter 2119. Hello Aunt Feng. He has not been in the Star Realm for a long time, and there are not many Emperor Senior realms that he has come into contact with. If he has really seen this red-clothed woman before, he will definitely have an impression. So there are only two explanations for this situation. First, the other party was working here, and he and Qin Chaoyang accidentally broke in. Second, the other party is here waiting for him and Qin Chaoyang. The second situation is basically impossible, so it should be the first one. Just when Yang Kai was thinking about it, the woman in red suddenly parted her vermilion lips, her voice was ethereal and sweet, and she said lightly, "You are still hiding in this big boat while talking to me, you are not small." The corners of her mouth were full of smiles, but her eyes were icy cold. At this point, she raised her hand slightly, and Qiancheniu twitched her fingers, and snapped them with a snap. The scorching power suddenly emerged, and a fist-sized fireball suddenly appeared in front of her, and with a slight tremor, it shot directly towards the boat. Both Yang Kai and Qin Chaoyang's expressions changed drastically at the same time, and they flew out without even thinking about it. Boom! There was a bursting sound, and the huge building was directly sucked into the raging flames. Qin Chaoyang was shocked by this terrifying power fluctuation, and fell into a coma from midair, and fell onto the grass. Life and death do not know. Yang Kai also felt a burning pain in his back, and his ribs seemed to be broken. He regained his stature and looked back, only to see that the entire building was engulfed in flames, burning blazingly, and turned into ashes in the blink of an eye. "My secret treasure!" Yang Kai shouted, his heart ached to death. He managed to have a flying secret treasure that can be used for transportation, and the grade is not bad. He didn't expect to be ruined by an inexplicable emperor prestige when he went out for the first time. Hearing Yang Kai's words, the corner of the red woman's mouth twitched again, and an imperceptible smile finally flashed across the corner of her icy eyes, and she said lightly, "Boy, instead of worrying about your own secret treasure, should you be more worried about your own life? Who is senior? Why did you want to attack me?" Yang Kai turned his head to look at her, and shouted sharply. He was so angry that he couldn't add more. The other party, a powerhouse at least at the second level of Emperor Senior, destroyed his own secret treasure with a single word of disagreement, and from her tone, it seemed that she had no intention of letting it go, and she wanted to attack herself, which naturally made Yang Kai a little unbearable. "Who is this palace? You don't need to know." The woman in red smiled slightly, and that smile was enough to turn all living beings upside down. When he reached 10 feet in front of Yang Kai, he gently raised a jade hand, pointed at Yang Kai's position, and continued, "It's just that I don't like you." At this point, she clapped her hands down. The law of heaven and earth calmed down leisurely, under the boundless pressure from the air strike, Yang Kai's bones cracked, as if he was about to be crushed into meatloaf by that terrifying pressure. "Are you sick?" Yang Kai's face turned extremely ugly. He never thought that he would encounter such an unreasonable disaster one day. Just because the other party didn't like him, he was about to kill him. While he was speaking, the internal energy in his body swayed, and a four-fingered broadsword appeared in his hand immediately, and he shouted in a low voice, "The sword is worth 1,000,000, and one man can guard the gate." The sword light appeared, and the sword energy groaned. Chi 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 chi. At this moment, the 1,000,000 swords seemed to be transformed into countless incarnations, densely packed around Yang Kai, shooting towards the air like locusts crossing the border. "Oh, Emperor Treasure." A look of surprise flashed in the beautiful eyes of the woman in red, but she didn't take it to heart. She just teased, "How much of the power of this Emperor Treasure can be exerted with such a weak cultivation?" Quote. Boom 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 boom. While she was speaking, clusters of dazzling light burst out in the sky, which was the confrontation between countless sword chi and the invisible coercion. But the time for Yang Kai to refine 1,000,000 swords is still short, and his cultivation base is not very high, so the countless sword chi seem to be fierce, but in fact they are strong on the outside and capable on the outside, but they disappear in smoke as soon as they come into contact with the boundless pressure. The terrifying coercion continued to suppress, directly covering the place where Yang Kai was. "It doesn't matter how much power you have, the important thing is. I didn't expect that sword to block your supernatural power." Yang Kai's voice suddenly sounded from behind the woman in red. Holding the sword in both hands, he exerted all his strength and slashed at the slender neck of the woman in red. The woman in red seemed taken aback too, and exclaimed coquettishly, "Teleportation. Space power. This is really interesting." As she spoke, she turned around and stared at Yang Kai with a smile, showing no intention of dodging. That sword cut directly across her neck, cutting her body in two. But Yang Kai didn't feel the joy after succeeding at all. On the contrary, he seemed to be stung by a scorpion, and his figure exploded. At the same time, next to where he was originally, a woman in red appeared strangely, pointing at his afterimage. Can this be avoided? The woman in red frowned and murmured, I underestimated you. After the words fell, her face changed slightly, and she frowned and looked around. Where she was, a pitch-black black hole appeared, and a terrifying devouring power came from the black hole. On the other side, Yang Kai formed seals with his hands, gritted his teeth and shouted, exile. Just by these means, the woman in red smiled lightly, you also want to deal with Ben Gong. When she waved her hand, the black hole disappeared. Yang Kai gave a wry smile, stood there without moving, and simply put away the million sword. What, did you give up resisting? The woman in red looked at Yang Kai with great interest and teased. I can't beat you, why should I fight? Yang Kai had an indifferent expression. Then you are going to die. The woman in red giggled. Yang Kai Dao. Useless resistance will only increase the pain, please give me a good time, senior. However, before that, I would like to ask, why did you treat me like this? Did I offend you? Didn't I tell you, I just don't like you? The woman in red replied. Crazy woman, Yang Kai said bitterly. PFF'd. Somewhere in the void, a hidden figure was sipping tea leisurely. After hearing Yang Kai's words, a sip of tea immediately sprayed out, almost hitting the face of a young girl opposite. The young girl didn't realize it, she just looked at Yang Kai and the woman in red nervously, and begged anxiously, Uncle Lee, can you let me go? I'll go back to the island with you obediently. Trouble with big brother Yang, he is only at the first level of Daoyuan, how can he be your opponent? No, no, no. The man who was replaced by the young girl as Uncle Lee slowly shook his head and corrected, it's not that Uncle Lee is looking for trouble with this kid, it's your Aunt Feng who is looking for trouble with him. It has nothing to do with Uncle Lee is just drinking tea here. Why, Aunt Feng has never met Brother Yang, so why bother him? The girl asked anxiously. Shao Qi, Uncle Lee showed a vicissitudes of life, and said earnestly, the outside world is very complicated, and the men outside are also very cunning, and your Aunt Feng is too. For your own good. Hearing this, Mo Shaoqi pouted and snorted, I don't care, if you don't call Aunt Feng back, Uncle Lee, I'll tell Aunt Feng to watch her take a bath. Hearing this, Uncle Lee's expression changed drastically, his face turned pale suddenly, cold sweat poured down his forehead, and he said, Shaoqi, you can eat indiscriminately but you can't talk nonsense. You, Uncle Lee, act upright and sit upright. When did you do such a nasty thing? Well, it was just that one time, but didn't you get it back without seeing anything? The little girl has a good memory, you only 4 years old. Don't change the subject, I'll just ask you, do you agree or not? Mo Shaoqi snorted, if you dare not agree, I will have to add fuel to the matter in front of Aunt Feng and divide it into more than 10 paragraphs. I have been slowly talking to Aunt Feng for a few days. Grandma, please forgive me. Uncle Lee's face turned bitter, please let me go, why make things difficult for me? You agreed. Mo Shaoqi looked at Uncle Lee coldly. Uncle Lee sighed, if just now. Uncle Lee might be able to help you with this, but now. What's the matter now? That kid dares to call you Aunt Feng a crazy woman, he is dead. Uncle Lee gloated. Ah, don't. Mo Shaoqi was startled, turned her head to look, and sure enough, she saw Aunt Feng burning with anger, and a little cold light bloomed in her beautiful eyes, it was Aunt Feng who was angry. Mo Shaoqi was most afraid of seeing Aunt Feng like this. Boy, what did you just say? The woman in red seemed to be smiling slightly, but Yang Kai could feel the biting coldness in her words. When the matter developed to this point, Yang Kai also went all out, if this woman really dared to kill him, at worst, he would directly untie the gold and silver two-color seal on her abdomen, and give her a big surprise. Even if you lose at that time and run away, I don't know if you can escape. It's just that when the time comes, there will be no power to seal the magic thought and the boundless magic energy again. The power of the seal contained in the Kengshu also takes time to accumulate. Crazy lady, Yang Kai raised his head slightly, staring at the woman in red. Hee. The woman in red smiled instead of anger, and the next moment, her voice suddenly became sharp. Do you believe that I will kill you now? Yang Kai raised his eyebrows and said unexpectedly, oh, so, you don't want me to kill me? Speaking of this, he relaxed and said with a smile, Then I'm surprised. You are a strong third-layer Emperor Senior, you are not doing your business, and you came here to block my way. What do you want to do? I haven't seen you before, so I don't have any deep hatred with you. The woman in red sneered and said, pretend to be smart. But Yang Kai's next sentence made her complexion change. Hello, Aunt Feng. A look of astonishment immediately appeared on the face of the woman in red. She never thought that Yang Kai would reveal her identity in one go. She quickly looked towards a certain place in the void, where Uncle Li spread his hands, indicating that it had nothing to do with her. Is it Aunt Feng? Although Yang Kai was asking, he basically used an affirmative tone. At the same time, he glanced at the place where the woman in red was looking just now, waved at the void, and shouted with a smile, Shao Qi. To be continued. This text is provided by the Breaking Dawn update group at Woi Xiao Hua Ti. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2120. In the void, Uncle Li, who had hidden his figure, looked at Yang Kai below in surprise, whistled frivolously, and said, this kid is very thoughtful. Brother Yang knows I'm here. Mo Shaoqi was also stunned, looking at Yang Kai who was greeting him not far away, and quickly responded with a few words, but no matter what, the voice could not reach Yang Kai's ears. The void is imprisoned by a powerful force, isolating the inside and outside. Mo Shaoqi became anxious immediately. Over there, Yang Kai smiled and said, Shaoqi, you can see me, just go home obediently, we will meet again if we are destined. Oh, Mo Shaoqi nodded, okay. She was originally disappointed because she didn't see Yang Kai for the last time when she left, but after hearing this sentence, it disappeared. She laughed happily. Yang Kai turned his head again, looked at the woman in red, and said, Aunt Feng. Who is Aunt Feng? Who is your name? The woman in red looked at Yang Kai with a cold face. Senior, you call again and try. Yang Kai took a deep breath and said, my lord. I probably already know why you stopped here. Stop pretending to be smart. The woman in red snorted coldly, interrupting Yang Kai's words. Yang Kai stayed for a few breaths, frowned and said, are you still refusing to admit it? Since this is the case, then. At this point, he suddenly looked towards the void, and with a look of affection on his face, he declared softly, Shaoqi, please go home and stay, and when Brother Yang collects the betrothal gift, I will come to marry you. The face of the woman in red suddenly changed drastically, and she shouted coquettishly, boy, how dare you? Before she finished speaking, she suddenly seemed to realize something, and said through gnashed teeth, you are treacherous. It wasn't until this moment that she suddenly realized that Yang Kai's words just now hadn't been passed on to Mo Shaoqi at all, but had been intentionally told to herself, and her own reaction had obviously confirmed his previous guess. That's right, I'm Shaoqi's Aunt Feng. Seeing that she failed to pretend to be stupid, the red-clothed woman simply admitted directly, looked at Yang Kai and said, boy, no matter where you are from, I don't care if you have a bright future, Shaoqi is absolutely people like you can be coveted, and I will remember this well. Is your lord here to warn me not to toads want to eat swan meat? Yang Kai said lightly, if that's the case, just say no earlier. You're pretty self-aware. The woman in red snorted softly, since you're so sensible, I don't want to bully the little with the big. If you remember what I said, if one day you really have something wrong with Shaoqi, if you think about it, I will definitely make you regret being born in this world. My lord's threat, it's soft and has no strength. Yang Kai smiled lightly, but please rest assured, my lord, Shaoqi and I are just friends. That's the best. The woman in red nodded in satisfaction. Yang Kai smiled again, and said, compared to young and lovely girls, I prefer beautiful mature women, for example, adults like this are really tempting. PFF'd. In the void, Uncle Li spewed out another sip of tea, his jaw seemed to be dislocated, and he opened his mouth. It took him a while to recover, and he said with cold sweat, I was molested. Ninth Miss was actually molested. While talking, he couldn't help laughing loudly, a brat dared to tease 9 girls. If the Emperor knows about this, the Emperor will definitely laugh. Brother Yang, why are you talking like that? On the other side, Mo Shaoqi also blushed, and spat, it's too shameless. Like someone like me. The red-clothed woman's complexion was slightly weird, she looked at Yang Kai with great interest, and said, based on your presumptuous remarks just now, I can pull out your hateful tongue. Quote. However, she changed the topic, smiled sweetly, and the charm suddenly flowed from her beautiful eyes, and she said softly, I like your straightforwardness very much. When will your cultivation level surpass mine? I may not be able to give you a chance to pursue me. Haha, then it's a deal. Yang Kai laughed. The woman in red stared deeply at Yang Kai, and after a while, she sneered, "You can't control yourself." As soon as the words fell, she shook her delicate body and disappeared suddenly. Hey, my lord, you ruined my flying secret treasure and just walked away, isn't it a bit unkind? Yang Kai shouted at the void. After saying those words, suddenly a cyan light came flying from a distance, and stopped in front of him in a flash. Yang Kai fixed his eyes on the past, and found that it was a miniature wooden boat wrapped in the blue profound light, about 3 inches in size, exuding the energy fluctuations of Daoyuan level secret treasure. Really paid me? Yang Kai was a little surprised, but he was not polite, and directly put the wooden boat into the space ring. Afterwards, he stood in the void and waited quietly. After a long time, he shivered suddenly, cold sweat poured down his forehead, his clothes were soaked with sweat in an instant, and his whole body was like a fish out of the water. He opened his mouth and gulped, panting. Although the confrontation with the woman in red was not thrilling, it was definitely not peaceful. After all, he is a third-layer emperor. She surpassed Yang Kai's multi-level realm. Even if Yang Kai really untied the gold and silver double-color seal on his lower abdomen, he was not completely sure that he would be able to escape from her. So he could only resort to dangerous tactics. Fortunately, at a critical moment, he suddenly guessed the other party's true identity. It is not difficult to think of this. He had no grievances with the woman in red, and a third-layer Emperor Senior came here to trouble him. Obviously there was a reason for the incident. And Yang Kai thought about it, and he could only think of Mo Shaoqi. Before Shaoqi left Fenggalan City, she left a jade slip and told Yang Kai that Aunt Feng had come to arrest her. With Mo Shaoqi's cultivation at the 3rd level of the Void King, how can he get rid of Aunt Feng's stalking, and the matter of being arrested and going home is a certainty. Maybe after catching Mo Shaoqi, Aunt Feng learned of her existence from her mouth, so she stopped here specially to test herself. Yang Kai can understand Aunt Feng's approach. A young girl who is ignorant of the world often mentions a strange man in her words. As an elder, Aunt Feng naturally needs to come and see how Yang Kai's conduct is, and test whether Mo Shaoqi is affected by the deceit of shameless people. The next step is simple. Now that he knows the identity of the other party, Yang Kai naturally understands that Mo Shaoqi must also be hidden nearby. And it is absolutely impossible for the woman in red to kill herself. On the contrary, when she said those words before leaving, she seemed to have used some kind of mysterious technique, and she almost made a fool of herself by being seduced by her charm. Fortunately, Aunt Feng also underestimated the power of Yang Kai's soul, so he let him use the power of Wen Shenlian to resolve it. Otherwise, if Mo Shaoqi really saw that ugly state, I am afraid that he will not have any contact with Yang Kai in the future. Should we go? Yang Kai murmured to himself. His whole body was a little out of strength, but he still hurried towards Qin Chaoyang's direction. After a short investigation, Qin Chaoyang just passed out, and there was no scar on his body. It seemed that Aunt Feng did it on purpose, and knocked Qin Chaoyang unconscious with the first blow, creating a chance to have a private conversation with Yang Kai. In the distance, Uncle Li used his great supernatural powers, leading Mo Shaoqi and Aunt Feng to shuttle through the void. Mo Shaoqi looked sullen. The two Emperor Senior Realm powerhouses turned a blind eye. From time to time, Uncle Li glanced sideways at Aunt Feng, as if he had something to say. What do you want to say? Just say it. What are you looking at? Aunt Feng was furious, and she stared at Uncle Li with her beautiful eyes. The latter sneered, and said, I'm just curious, how did that kid dissolve your soul attraction technique? How much power did you use? 10%, or half of it? Aunt Feng was silent for a while, and said, 20%. Are you kidding me? Uncle Li rolled his eyes. Aunt Feng said, that kid's soul power is a bit weird. He only has the cultivation base of the 1st level of Daoyuan, but the power of his soul is comparable to the 3rd level of Daoyuan. And what? He seems to have some powerful secret treasure for self-defense. My soul attraction technique has been offset by that thing for most of its power. Even you didn't realize what secret treasure it was. It exists in the sea of consciousness, unless I break his head and take a closer look. Don't talk about such scary topics, okay? I'm right here. Mo Shaoqi interjected to prove his existence. And that kid? Aunt Feng didn't pay attention to Mo Shaoqi at all, but looked at Uncle Li with great interest, and said with a smile, the attainment of space power is not low, and he can display a secret similar to a black hole. I remember that you couldn't do it to this level back then. What do you want to say? Uncle Lee squinted at Aunt Feng. Aunt Feng smiled and said, it's rare to meet a suitable one, and you didn't think about taking him into your sect. In all fairness, this kid is quite good, even if he is the top sect in the star world, he may not be able to train him. Cut, Uncle Lee sneered, what's the fun with the apprentice? After I take it back, I have to bother to teach him, and I have to worry about him, fearing that he will die or something. If he is a beautiful girl, I might think about it. It's a pity to raise it up, tisk tisk. That means he doesn't have this blessing. Aunt Feng smiled. That's right. Mo Shaoqi clapped his hands suddenly, and said, Uncle Lee, you are proficient in the power of space, and so is Brother Yang, why don't you take him into your family, Uncle Lee, and he can inherit your mantle. I refuse. Uncle Lee didn't even think about it. Mo Shaoqi glanced at him, then turned around, looked at Aunt Feng and said, Aunt Feng, Uncle Lee was when I was 4 years old. Oh, Uncle Lee's complexion changed, and he clapped his hands at the same time, and shouted, I suddenly feel that it is very good to have an apprentice. If I am in a good mood, I will bring him over to train me. If I am in a bad mood, I will bring him over. Tune it up and enjoy the joy of being a stubborn man. Uncle Lee, do you really think so? Mo Shaoqi looked at him excitedly. Uncle Lee nodded solemnly, when Uncle Lee sees him next time, he will definitely be accepted as an apprentice. At the same time, I thought in my heart, when I go back this time, I will retreat for thousands of years, and Shaoqi will definitely forget about it by then. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to recommend it tickets, monthly tickets, your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2121 Qingyang Mountain Range. It took 2 full hours for Qin Chaoyang to wake up leisurely. After being stunned for a while, he suddenly remembered what happened before he fell into a coma, and looked around with a changed face, only to relax after he found that Yang Kai was safe and sound. Yes. He was naturally very curious about what the woman in red wanted to do, and what happened during his coma. Yang Kai didn't tell the truth either. After all, this matter involved Mo Shaoqi's origin and identity, so he casually said that the woman in red had admitted the wrong person. Qin Chaoyang was dubious, but since both of them were unharmed, he didn't bother to ask the truth, but continued to drive towards the direction of Qingyang Temple. Yang Kai's building boat secret treasure was destroyed, and the small wooden boat Mekong that the red-clothed woman compensated before leaving Yang Kai had no time to refine it, so Qin Chaoyang had to sacrifice his own flying secret treasure. It was a secret treasure in the shape of a carriage, and its grade was also Daoyuan level low grade. Although the space was not as large as Yang Kai's building boat, the speed was not much slower. Yang Kai took the time to refine the wooden boat secret treasure. The woman in red is a strong Emperor Senior 3-layer at any rate, and this secret treasure that was casually compensated to Yang Kai is of Daoyuan level high grade. And there are many restrictions inside, although it has no attack power, but the defense is solid, which makes Yang Kai very satisfied. He wants to enter the land of 4 seasons, and there will be times when he will need to use the flying secret treasure, so he is also hurrying to refine it. There were no accidents along the way, and after more than 10 days, the two entered the sphere of influence of Qingyang Temple. The Qingyang Temple is the most famous sect in the southern region, and it ranks with Wuhua Hall, Tianwu Holy Land and other 2 sects in terms of status and strength, and is second only to the Star God Palace. Its main rudder is located in a continuous mountain range, with tens of thousands of disciples, and strong ones emerge in endlessly. Yang Kai and Qin Chaoyang didn't know why that expert appointed Qin Chaoyang to come to Qingyang Temple in exchange for a place to enter the land of 4 seasons, but since the other party said so, it probably has something to do with Qingyang Temple. As soon as the two stepped into the Qingyang Mountains, they were shocked by the aura contained in the mountains. The rich spiritual energy of heaven and earth rushes towards him, carrying the fragrance of flowers and plants, which makes people feel refreshed. Practicing in such a good environment, the effect is absolutely amazing. Yang Kai estimated that there should be a lot of good earth veins under the Qingyang Mountains, even the top-grade earth veins should exist, otherwise there would not be such a strong heaven and earth spirit. And this is only the periphery. If it goes deep into the center, what will it be like? He looked around, secretly shocked by the background of the Qingyang Temple, but unexpectedly found that Qin Chaoyang's expression was a little nervous and reserved. After thinking about it, I understand. After all, this is the chief rudder of the top sect in the southern region. Qin Chaoyang, the patriarch of a small family in Fenggalan City, may be considered a #1 figure in Fenggalan City, but when he comes here, he may not even be as good as an ordinary disciple. There is a lot of psychological pressure, and I am afraid that when I meet someone later, I will make a mistake in my speech or lose my etiquette. After all, he came here to ask for help, so he was naturally very nervous. In contrast, Yang Kai seemed to have no pressure, as if traveling in the mountains and rivers, taking in the beautiful scenery along the way. Slowly, Yang Kai paused and said, "Brother Qin, someone is coming." Ah, Qin Chaoyang seemed to be wandering away. He was startled when he heard the words, but he stopped and stood quietly on the spot. After a while, 2 beams of light suddenly shot from afar, and landed precisely not far in front of the 2 of them, looking at them coldly. One of them has a fat head and big ears, and a fat body. The fat on his face is piled up, and he can hardly see where his eyes are. The other person was a blue-faced man, and he didn't know whether it was because of his natural skin color or because he was practicing some kind of secret technique, but he didn't look like a normal person anyway. These 2 people's cultivation bases are not high, one is at the 2nd level of the Void King, and the other is at the 3rd level of the Void King. But as a mountain patrolling disciple, this kind of cultivation is enough to show the powerful background of Qingyang Temple. "Who are you? Why did you trespass on my Qingyang Temple?" The fat man didn't mean to be afraid because of the difference in cultivation, but instead looked superior and bossed Yang Kai and Qin Chaoyang. Yang Kai's head moved, and he thought to himself that the great sect is the great sect, and if he was standing in front of him at the Daoyuan realm, the warriors at the Void King realm would not be trembling, but here, neither of these 2 guys showed any signs of timidity. On the contrary, it seems that his cultivation base is lower than theirs. Qin Chaoyang was also a little surprised, but he felt relieved when he thought that this was the Qingyang Temple. He quickly lowered his posture, clasped his fists and said, "I have seen 2 little brothers. This old man is the head of the Qin family in Fenggalan City." "This yes." Before he could introduce Yang Kai, the fat man frowned and said, "Maple Forest City. I haven't heard of it. I've never heard of it." The blue-faced man also looked impatient, and said contemptuously, "It's probably somewhere in the backcountry." "Senior brother is right." The obese man stroked his double chin with a look of approval, and shouted at Qin Chaoyang in the blink of an eye, "Run, you are not staying in Maple Leaf City, what are you doing here at Qingyang Temple?" 2. Soil Bun. Qin Chaoyang was startled at the time, this fat man actually called him that in front of his face, and no one really called him that before. A trace of anger could not help gushing from the depths of his heart, but now that he was under the eaves, he had to bow his head. He could only suppress the anger in his heart, and said with a smile, "It's Maple Forest City, not Maple Leaf City." "Aren't they all the same?" the fat man asked. "Well, it's all the same." The blue-faced man also nodded. "You haven't answered my question yet. What are you doing here at Qingyang Temple? If you don't answer quickly, you will be regarded as the enemy of the invasion. Don't blame my brothers for being ruthless." The obese man said that he didn't fit his body type. With agility and speed, he opened up an attacking posture. "Our brothers are very good at cutting, please report your intentions quickly." The blue-faced man also put on a pose in a timely manner, as if he would fight if there was any disagreement. "Wait a minute," Qin Chaoyang was taken aback. The opponent's 2 Void King realm dared to show their intention to attack them. When the strong come, even if he and Yang Kai have the means to reach the sky, they will never want to escape from this place. He considered his words for a while, and said, "2 little brothers, don't be nervous, this brother Yang and I are not enemies of your palace. Whether it's an enemy or not, you and your senior brother can judge for yourself." The obese man shouted in a low voice. "Yes, it's not up to you." Although the blue-faced man is a senior brother, he seems to be a person who has no opinions. Whatever the fat senior brother says, he will follow suit. Qin Chaoyang sighed and said helplessly, "The old man came here to ask to see the Lord Wen of your palace." Hearing this, the chubby senior brother and Qingmian senior brother were all taken aback, and remained silent for a while. After a while, the fat senior brother turned his head to look at his senior brother, and said, "Senior brother, did I hear correctly? This bumpkin just said that he wanted to see the palace master." Senior brother heard it too. Senior brother Qingmian led the way. "Presumptuous." Fat junior brother suddenly became furious, and sternly shouted, "You bumpkin, if you give you 3 points of color, you will open a dyeing workshop, how dare you use me to open a painting, look at the trick." It was too late to say, but soon, the fat junior brother shook his body, formed seals with his hands, and while the power in his body was mobilizing, he suddenly piled forward, and a surge of surging power was suddenly aroused, and he rushed towards Qin Chaoyang hit the past. That Qingmian senior brother didn't react too slowly, he directly took out a long sword secret treasure, and under the flickering light of the sword, he went straight to Yang Kai's face, and his moves were wide open and closed. To put it bluntly, it was full of flaws. What are you two little brothers doing? Qin Zhaoyang turned pale with shock, and with a urging of Yuanli, he directly neutralized the attack of the fat junior brother invisible. He didn't expect that the other party would kill him immediately after he said what he wanted. Fortunately, the strength of these two people is not high, and there is nothing to be afraid of with his Daoyuan level cultivation base. On the other side, Yang Kai stretched out his hand and clamped the ferocious long sword of the green-faced man in the palm of his hand. Both of them just deciphered the other's ultimate move, and did not fight back. Ah! Seeing this scene, the fat senior brother exclaimed, "No way, senior brother, these two are Daoyuan realm warriors, retreat quickly." It seems that until this moment, he did not realize the fact that Yang Kai and Qin Chaoyang's cultivation bases were higher than theirs. Oh, brother Qingmian also came back to his senses at this moment, and he didn't know what movement technique he had used, but he ignored his secret treasure of the long sword and retreated back to his brother in a hurry. The enemy, senior brother, hurry up, these two people are not easy to deal with. The fat senior brother looked a little flustered, and immediately galloped backward after speaking. The blue-faced man followed closely behind. In the distance, the voice of fat junior brother came from over there. "If you have the guts, wait for me, and wait for the masters in my palace to kill you. I want you to look good." Qin Chaoyang was stunned, standing there with a helpless expression. Yang Kai also had black lines all over his face. After thinking for a while, he held the long sword in his fingertips in the palm of his hand. "Brother Yang, Qin Chaoyang looked flustered, as if retreating. "Go inside, as expected, you should be able to meet the real talker soon." Yang Kai smiled slightly. "Is this good?" Qin Zhaoyang hesitated. "If we really escaped, it would be nothing but yellow mud. Once we are wanted by the Qingyang Temple, I am afraid that you and I will not be able to gain a foothold in the southern region in the future. Why don't you take the initiative to meet them and explain to them?" "Brother Yang is right, but I'm afraid people won't believe us," Qin Zhaoyang said worriedly. Yang Kai laughed and said, "The two people I met before had a bit of a maverick way of thinking. I guess other people in Qingyang Temple should also understand. If they explain it well, they should be able to understand." "I hope so." Qin Zhaoyang nodded. After thinking about it, the tension and fear in his heart disappeared a lot, and he and Yang Kai walked forward again. To be continued. This text is provided by the Breaking Dawn update group at Cha Shang Meng Wei. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to the first release to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2122 Broken. This time, Yang Kai and Qin Chaoyang didn't go far before they noticed a Dao origin stage expert coming. It should be the helpers invited by the two Qingyang Temple disciples before. The speed of the arrival was extremely fast, and there were more than one. There were 4 or 5 of them, and the leader was at the level of Daoyuan's second layer. Yang Kai waited quietly, did not move forward. Qin Zhaoyang also had a stern face, with an uneasy expression. Not long after, light flashed, and a group of warriors appeared in front of the two of them. "Deacon Dao, it's these two guys who trespassed on my Qingyang mountains and uttered nonsense. I was defeated by senior brother, so I retreated ashamedly. Look, that person still holds senior brother's long sword in his hand." The fat junior brother and Qingmian senior brother who had appeared before were also among these few people. As soon as they appeared, the fat junior brother danced and explained to a half-old man, and pointed at Yang Kai. The half-aged old man looked about 50 years old, his hair was half-white, and his figure was not tall, but his eyes were shining brightly, and he looked capable. This person should be the Deacon Dao that the fat junior brother said. Warriors at the second level of Daoyuan only serve as deacons in the Qingyang Temple, and the higher guardians, elders, should be assumed by more powerful warriors. Yang Kai thought secretly. As soon as the fat junior brother finished speaking, the green-faced senior brother also yelled, "Hey that country bumpkin, quickly return the uncle's secret treasure to me, or I will make you look good." The corner of Yang Kai's mouth twitched. He had no intention of taking the opponent's secret treasure as his own, and this long sword was just a Void King level high-grade secret treasure. The reason why he held it in his hand was because he wanted to see the blue-faced man again. Time to return it to him. But the other party said so. He was caught in a dilemma, not paying back, and not paying back. Pay it back, it seems too cowardly, don't pay it back. That was an obvious provocation. This made Yang Kai secretly a little dizzy, wishing he could go forward and tear the blue-faced man's mouth open. Don't be rude. Fortunately, Deacon Dao seemed to be a sensible person, and he didn't blindly trust his own sect disciples. He probably knew the fat and blue-faced brothers from the inside out, and knew what they were doing. The style is a little different from ordinary people. While speaking, he glanced at Yang Kai and Qin Zhaoyang lightly. Immediately I had a bottom line in my heart. The cultivation base of the two Daoyuan first-level realms is not high, but it is not very low. Compared with the warriors outside, the Daoyuan realm is considered a strong one. The general history of the matter. This deacon already understands something, what do you two have to say? Said Deacon Dao. Qin Zhaoyang quickly clasped his fists and said, the head of the Qin family in Fenggalan City, Qin Chaoyang, has met Deacon Dao. Brother Yang and I took the liberty to come to Qingyang Temple, not to pick quarrels, but just now two disciples of your hall suddenly took the initiative. Brother Yang and I were forced to defend ourselves, and we had no choice but to defend ourselves. Deacon Dao, please enlighten me. Fenggalan City. Deacon Dao frowned slightly when he heard the words, and said lightly, recently, I seem to have heard the three words Fenggalan City often. The other two Daoyuan realm warriors standing next to him also nodded slightly. First, the Holy Spirit Luanfeng appeared in Yuqing Mountain near Fenggalan City, and then the seal of the ancient troll was broken, and the city was besieged by demonic energy, etc. These things are not secrets, and those who are interested can naturally find out. What happened to Fenggalan City? Deacon Dao asked with some surprise. He thought Yang Kai and Qin Chaoyang were messengers from Fenggalan City asking for help. Hearing what he said, Qin Chaoyang immediately understood. The other party didn't know his reason for coming, presumably it was because the fat junior brother and Qingmian senior brother didn't explain. Qin Chaoyang said, it's not because of an accident in Fenggalan City. Qin came here this time for a private matter. Personal matters. Deacon Dao heard the words. Slightly frowning, he asked, who are you and me in Qingyang Temple? No, Qin Zhaoyang shook his head. Then you want to join my Qingyang Temple? Deacon Dao asked again. No. Deacon Dao suddenly became a little impatient. At this moment, the fat junior approached Deacon Dao, whispered something beside Deacon Dao. A cold light flashed in Deacon Dao's eyes. He stared at the two people opposite, nodded and said, so that's the case, so it's no wonder they will attack you with such brazen words. After a pause, he said, it's not easy for you to cultivate to the Daoyuan realm, and it's your first offense, so each of you leaves an arm, so let's go. Qin Zhaoyang's body shook, his eyes widened, and he looked forward in disbelief. Yang Kai also frowned, secretly feeling that things were a little difficult. Although Deacon Dao's thinking is normal, his acting style is also straightforward, and he doesn't give the two of them a chance to explain. Seeing the expressions of the two, Deacon Dao chuckled and said, why? Don't you want to? If you don't want to, I don't mind helping you. Deacon Dao, Yang Kai shouted suddenly, what else do you want to say? Deacon Dao cast his gaze on Yang Kai. Yang Kai chuckled, and said, could it be that Deacon Dao wants us to cut off our arms just because Brother Qin and I want to see the Lord Wen of the Noble Hall? What kind of reason is this? Qingyang Temple treats guests like this. Southern region top sects, it's really worth seeing once. His tone was sarcasm, making several people on the opposite side stare angrily. Deacon Dao sneered even more, and said, you trespassed on my Qingyang mountains, and I can take your lives. Now that you are alive, you should be grateful and leave with an arm. If you talk too much, you don't have to go. He looked confident. It's not surprising, he is at the second level of Daoyuan. Yang Kai and Qin Chaoyang's cultivation at the first level of Daoyuan is clear at a glance. Deacon Dao doesn't think they are his opponents. What's more, there are two companions at the first level of Daoyuan beside him. Yang Kai Dao. Just because of our request. Yes. This is strange. According to the patriarchal regulations of your palace, outsiders are not allowed to ask to see Palace Master Wen. Of course not, but, what qualifications do you have to ask to see the Palace Master? Wen Zishan, the master of the Qingyang Temple, is a well-deserved powerhouse of the third-level Emperor Senior Realm. As a person who stands at the pinnacle of martial arts, he is not someone who just sees him. If you want to see him, you have to be at the Emperor's senior realm at the very least. Yang Kai and Qin Chaoyang, two Daoyuan first-level warriors, made such a request, which is simply unbearable. This is like a shabby beggar who wants to see the noble princess of a country. Naturally, those guards would rather kill the beggar than let him tarnish the queen's eyes. Since old brother Qin and I have come here all the way, we naturally have a reason to ask to see Palace Master Wen. Yang Kai said in a deep voice, "How about this, Deacon Dao, please report this matter to Palace Master Wen, and whether you see him or not. That is also the Palace Master. It's the Lord's business." Presumptuous. My lord is always busy, how can I meet such little people as you? Deacon Dao snorted coldly. Yang Kai looked at him with great interest, and said, "Deacon Dao said that, could it be because you can't see Palace Master Wen either?" After finishing speaking, without waiting for him to deny it, Yang Kai looked sober. He said to himself, "Yes, with Deacon Dao's status, it may not be so easy to meet Master Wen, so how about it, Deacon Dao, go and report to the elders or guardians you can talk to, and let them tell Master Wen how. This deacon does things, why should you teach me?" Deacon Dao seemed a little annoyed. Obviously it was hit by Yang Kai. Yang Kai was unmoved, and said indifferently, "Deacon Dao, Brother Qin and I came here. Not only is there a reason to ask to see Palace Master Wen, but there is also a reason why he must see him. Are you sure you want to drive us out of the Qingyang mountain range?" Upon hearing that, Deacon Dao couldn't help shrinking his eyes. Yang Kai gave him the feeling that he was too calm, and it was definitely not something that a Daoyuan first-order martial artist could show. It seemed that the Lord Palace Master would really meet them. If they really brought some important information to Lord Hall Master, they were stopped here by him. And drove them out, and waited until the Lord Palace Master knew about it in the future. I can't get away with it. Thinking of this, Deacon Dao suppressed the unhappiness in his heart. He opened his mouth and said, "What do you two have that the Lord Palace Master can't rely on? Tell me, if it is true, this deacon will inform you of it." Yang Kai heard the words and glanced at Qin Chaoyang. Qin Chaoyang knew that this was the end of the matter, and he had to show something, otherwise he wouldn't even be able to enter the gate of Qingyang Temple. He reached out and took out the Jade Girl Beggar Order from the interspatial ring, and with a little strength, he threw it at Deacon Dao, saying, "Master Deacon just needs to pass this item to Palace Master Wen, and he will understand naturally." When he said this, although Qin Chaoyang was still calm, he was secretly praying in his heart that the expert he met back then was not making fun of him. Today, I am afraid that it is really doomed. What is this? Deacon Dao reached out to take the token, put it in the palm of his hand and looked at it carefully. The other two sources of Dao also leaned over to have a look. Soon, Deacon Dao's expression changed, from initial suspicion to bewilderment, then stunned, angry, and sternly shouted, "Bold lunatics, do you think you can fool this deacon by just carving a nondescript token? I think you didn't wake up." Deacon Dao's reaction was completely within Yang Kai's expectations. Anyone who sees this token will probably feel suspicious. When he first saw the Jade Girl Beggar Order, he also didn't take this token seriously. Token is indeed an expert, and an expert beyond his imagination. Such an expert has no reason to play with Qin Chaoyang, a Daoyuan realm warrior, so Yang Kai thinks that this token should be real, symbolizing a kind of identity and status. So he smiled confidently, "Deacon Dao, although this token is a bit weird, it was not carved by us at will. It was made by a very strong man. It doesn't matter if you don't understand it. I believe the Lord of the Palace will understand." Okay, you two bastards, do you really think that deacon is so talkative? I don't know if you will think so after your limbs and scalps are chopped off. Deacon Dao's face suddenly became ferocious. The hand holding the token shook hard. A shocking scene happened. Crack, the token is broken. To be continued. Chapter 2123 Projection. The Jade Girl Chichao token, which was pinched by Yang Kai's brute force and could not be damaged even Qin Chaoyang tried his best, was crushed into 4 or 5 pieces by Deacon Dao casually. Effortless. Yang Kai was dumbfounded, staring blankly ahead, his thinking was in a mess. Qin Chaoyang also had a dislocated jaw, his mouth was open, his eyes were wide open, and his mind was in a mess. "Hey," Deacon Dao sneered, threw out the fragments of the token in his hand, and said, "This kind of garbage, I can carve out a few hundred pieces at will, and garbage can also be used as a token. What a joke, you two scumbags, what else do you have to say?" "Brother Qin," Yang Kai snorted, turned to look at him, and said, "What's going on?" He expected Qin Zhaoyang to give him a reasonable explanation. Qin Zhaoyang didn't respond, and stood there stupidly as if he had lost his soul. I was tricked, Yang Kai wailed deep in his heart, scolding the so-called expert bloody. The token didn't happen sooner or later, and the accident happened in the hands of Deacon Dao. Obviously, the power attached to the token disappeared. Otherwise, with Deacon Dao's strength, it would be impossible to destroy the Jade Girl Beggar Order. But now, the token was broken and the keepsake was gone, so the two of them couldn't tell. Yang Kai is already considering whether he should leave the southern region after escaping from the Qingyang Mountains, otherwise he will be targeted by such a behemoth, and with his strength, something will happen sooner or later. All the disciples are ordered to follow this deacon to kill these two treacherous villains on the spot, so as to rectify the prestige of my temple. Deacon Dao couldn't wait to issue orders. The two Daoyuan first-level realm responded and rushed forward aggressively. Fat Junior Brother and Qingmian Senior Brother seemed to have found a good time to take revenge, and followed closely behind regardless of the gap in realm cultivation. Brother Qin, let's go! Yang Kai shouted. Qin Zhaoyang remained indifferent, just stood there, his lips twitched, and muttered to himself as if unconscious, broken. It seems that the scene just now hit him quite hard. What was broken in front of him was not only a token but also the only hope to save Qin Yu's life. Just at this critical moment, an inexplicable force suddenly emerged out of thin air. Time seemed to freeze at this moment. In the sky, the clouds rose and the wind surged, and the lightning flashed and thundered. The rhythm of energy swayed leisurely from the clouds in the sky. At this moment, Yang Kai, Qin Chaoyang, Dao Deacon and others felt a terrifying coercion. Not only them, but even the warriors in the entire Qingyang Mountains felt it, trembling and terrified by this coercion. This is. In a palace at the main peak of the Qingyang Mountains, a middle-aged man in a purple shirt who looked about 40 years old seemed to be practicing some secret technique in retreat, but in that way in a moment of depressing, he immediately opened his eyes, the eyes overflowed with light, and suddenly looked in one direction. His eyes seemed to be able to penetrate the void, and saw a scene that happened thousands of miles away. With a dignified look, he sensed it for a moment, and said with some horror on his face, "How is it possible?" At the same time, in another mountain peak, there is a quiet environment surrounded by singing birds and fragrant flowers, as if it is not owned by human beings, it is beautiful. In the middle of the peak, a dignified and beautiful woman also stood up suddenly, her beautiful eyes stared into the distance, her pretty face changed slightly, her delicate body shook without thinking, and then disappeared from the spot. On the other side, an old man was sitting cross-legged. In front of him, many elite disciples of the temple listened to the old man's explanation of martial arts in heaven, and all of them were fascinated. Suddenly, the old man's voice stopped abruptly, he raised his head and looked in one direction. After a while, he slowly got up and disappeared in a flash, leaving a group of disciples in shock. Similar scenes happened in various places of Qingyang Temple. Whether they were in seclusion or not, the Emperor Senior Realm powerhouses all sensed this terrifying power, and rushed from their residences to the place where the incident happened, wanting to check it out. At the edge of the Qingyang Mountains, the bodies of the 7 people present, regardless of their level of cultivation, trembled. This has nothing to do with guts and will, but complete power suppression. His cultivation base was as weak as that of Fat Junior Brother and Qingmian Senior Brother, and his bones were creaking. After holding on for a while, both of them passed out. And the 4 Daoyuan first-level realms present are also mobilizing the power in the body to resist the inexplicable coercion. Deacon Dao is the same, his face is hard, and his not tall body seems to be pressed under a mountain. The waist is completely stooped. What is this? What kind of power is this? Deacon Dao yelled in horror. Qin Chaoyang and the other 2 sources of Dao in Qingyang Temple were also full of awe and horror. Yang Kai's eyeballs rolled around, looking around, wanting to release his spiritual sense to perceive the source of power and coercion, but found that the spiritual sense could not leave the body at all, this space seemed to be completely imprisoned. Boom! In the sky, a beam of light suddenly fell, and a person appeared strangely. The light dissipated, and the man entered everyone's eyes. The visitor was wearing a wide bamboo hat, which was slightly askew, covering the upper half of his face, so he couldn't see his face clearly, but there was a patch of uneven beard on his chin, matching the gap between the edges of the hat. Ruowu's lazy gaze made this man look like a magical charm. The person who came was dressed in a very flamboyant manner. He was obviously a tall man with broad shoulders and tall body, but he was wearing a gaudy gown and a pair of deerskin boots. He looked a bit nondescript. As soon as this person Yu appeared, Qin Zhaoyang suddenly widened his eyes and said in surprise, "A master." Yang Kai heard him yelling and immediately understood that this person should be the owner of the token. Sure enough, just as I guessed, this person's strength has reached the peak, and he is definitely a strong person at the level of Emperor Zun's third layer. The feeling from him seems to be stronger than the Antfeng I met before. The key is, this person is not an entity, but just a projection. Who is here? Who is it? Deacon Dao was almost terrified. If he hadn't been on his own territory, he might have escaped, but even so, he was trembling all over, and he didn't dare to meet the man's eyes when he shouted, for fear of offending the other party. Where is the Qingyang temple? The mysterious visitor looked up slightly, then murmured to himself, without any intention of responding to Deacon Dao, but turned his head to look at where Qin Zhaoyang was, and said, "It's only a dozen or so. I haven't seen you for a few years, so I'm so old. It seems that you have worked hard for these years." My lord, Qin Zhaoyang's eyes were full of tears, and after he said a word, he was so choked up that he couldn't speak. "Since you're here, then feel free to make your request boldly." The man smiled slightly, his gaze suddenly fixed on Yang Kai, and he said strangely, "You're here too." Yang Kai's face suddenly changed, he swallowed his saliva, and said, "This lord recognizes me." He. The man smiled without saying a word, pretending to be profound, which made people feel angry, and his projection only lasted for a few breaths before it was about to disappear. "It's time, what a pity." Having said that, the projection actually disappeared in front of everyone's eyes, and it's unknown what he was regretting. As soon as the projection disappeared, all kinds of heaven and earth visions disappeared at the same time, and the sensational coercion naturally disappeared. In the jungle, everyone gasped for breath immediately. "Papa!" There was a sound of something falling to the ground. When everyone heard the sound, they turned their heads to look, and suddenly found that what fell on the ground was the fragments of tokens that had been crushed by Deacon Dao before. There were as many as 4 or 5 pieces, and they were falling on the place where the mysterious strong man disappeared. Seeing this scene, Deacon Dao's face turned pale, and he didn't know that he had made a huge mistake. The token that was crushed by him obviously has a lot of background, otherwise it would not be used as a medium to project the figure of such a strong person. Perhaps the strong man had poured power into it when he made the token. Once the token is destroyed, a projection will appear. "I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't do it on purpose." Deacon Dao panicked like a stray dog, scrambling and crawling, and even fell on the way. Finally, he ran to the fragment of the token and picked it up with his hand. But the moment the token was in his hands, it turned into powder and flowed through his fingertips, blown by the wind, eloquently. "It's over, it's over." Seeing this, Deacon Dao froze. Shish! The sound of piercing the sky came continuously, and figures suddenly appeared around the crowd. These figures were old and young, men and women, and they came from different directions. Each of them had a solemn expression, as if they were facing a formidable enemy. After arriving at the scene, their spiritual thoughts were swept away, but their faces were full of doubts. Because the energy fluctuations and coercion they had sensed before now completely disappeared. The other 2 sources of origin of the Qingyang temple hurriedly paid homage upon seeing these people. This subordinate has met the deputy hall master and all the elders and protectors. These people are all powerful in the Emperor's senior realm, and they are the top combat power of Qingyang temple. Yang Kai's eyes swept over these people, and when he saw a dignified and beautiful woman, he couldn't help shrinking his neck, and secretly cursed in his heart. That person was none other than Gao Shueding, who had fought against him before. Although Yang Kai had already predicted that he might have a chance to see this beautiful woman again when he came to Qingyang temple, but he never thought it would be so soon. The two had fought against each other, and even though Yang Kai was surrounded by demonic energy at the time, making it hard to see his face, it would be over if Gao Shueding noticed something. Yang Kai is most reluctant to see this woman. "Who came here?" An octogenarian who looked about 70 or 80 years old suddenly asked after sweeping the audience with majestic eyes. This old man's aura is as deep as the sea, obviously much stronger than Gao Shueding, similar to Xiao Yuyang that Yang Kai had seen before. He should be a strong Emperor Senior 2-layer. To be continued. This text is provided by the Breaking Dawn update group at Woixiaowati. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2124 Red Dust. The old man asked a question, but the disciples of Qingyang Temple didn't know how to answer. Fat junior brother and Qingmian senior brother have already passed out, and they haven't seen the scene projected by the strong man, while Deacon Dao is still muttering to himself in a daze. The remaining 2 Daoyuan first-level realms can't say anything at all. So come here. It's all dumb. Seeing this, the octogenarian couldn't help snorting coldly, with a displeased expression on his face. Dao Ming, what are you doing? On the side, a middle-aged man with a level of Emperor Senior looked at Deacon Dao, frowned and shouted. The shout came to Deacon Dao's ears, like a sledgehammer hitting his heart. A mysterious force came out of the sudden shock, making Dao Ming spit out a mouthful of blood, but just like this, Dao Ming's slack eyes finally refocused, and his frightened emotions calmed down. He looked around blankly, and when he saw the old man and others, he shook his body and shouted, "This subordinate has seen the deputy hall master, and the elders who protect the Dharma." Stop rambling. The middle-aged man who had previously awakened Dao Ming with the mystical soul technique let out a low voice, "Tell me, what happened here, and who has been here? Who came here?" Dao Ming muttered to himself. The terrifying scene just now appeared in his mind, and he remembered the scene of the token turning into powder and flowing through his fingertips. Yi Bai immediately fell to his knees on the ground and said in horror, "My lords, please forgive me, this subordinate didn't do it on purpose." Seeing this, the old man shook his head slowly. "Let me come." On the other side, a girl who looked only 17 or 18 suddenly said. "Of course, she just looks young, but she is a genuine emperor-level powerhouse. I don't know what kind of mysterious power she used to suspend her body in midair so strangely, and slowly floated in front of Dao Ming while speaking. Her expression was as gentle as water. She stretched out a jade hand, patted Dao Ming's head from the air, and said, "Don't be afraid, just tell the truth about what you saw and heard." As soon as these words came out, Dao Ming's trembling body and frightened emotions suddenly became calm as if he had been appeased by something. He looked at the void with a slightly dull gaze, and opened his mouth and said, "Returning to my lords, the matter is like this." He didn't add oil and vinegar, nor did he fan the flames. He told the truth about everything that happened before, and it was extremely detailed. Yang Kai looked secretly startled, knowing that the Emperor Senior Realm powerhouse who looked like a young girl must have used some kind of mystical soul technique, which should be the type that can guide Dao Ming to tell the truth without damaging the other party. Soul. When he heard a strange figure descending from the sky, the old man shouted in a low voice, "What does that person look like? Explain carefully." "Dao Ming Dao, I can't see clearly." The person who came was wearing a big bamboo hat to cover his face, but his clothes were extremely strange. He was clearly a man, but he was wearing a gaudy gown. When the old man heard the words, his expression changed, and he asked in surprise, "What about the token?" Dao Ming described it truthfully. The old man was silent for a long time. The middle-aged man looked at the old man with a strange expression, and asked, "Vice Palace Master Chu, do you know who this person is?" The others also looked at the old man curiously, wanting him to give an answer. The old man didn't mean to answer, but looked at Yang Kai and Qin Chaoyang. It was also until this moment that someone looked at Yang Kai and Qin Chaoyang for the first time. Neither of them dared to be negligent, and quickly clasped their fists together to salute. The old man nodded lightly and asked, "Did you bring the token?" Qin Chaoyang said, "My lord, the token was brought by Qin." "Okay," the old man said, and said lightly, "Come with me, this is not a place to talk." As the words fell, the old man's sleeves rolled up, and the next moment, Yang Kai and Qin Chaoyang felt a soft force wrapping themselves up, and then flew forward involuntarily, following behind the old man. The other emperors looked at each other, and they all followed the old man. After the crowd had left for a while, Dao Ming seemed to come back to life. His body shook, his eyes showed a frightened expression, and his face suddenly became extremely pale. "Deacon Dao." The other 2 Daoyuanjing hurried forward, watching him nervously. "I'm fine." Dao Ming waved his hands with lingering fear, and said in his mouth, "It's fortunate that Master Chen Qian is merciful, otherwise I would have become an idiot." But when he thought of the crucial token being destroyed in his own hands, Dao Ming felt uneasy, fearing that the sect's higher-ups would blame him for his mistakes. The main peak of Qingyang Temple, on Wansheng Peak. In front of the palace, Yang Kai and Qin Chaoyang stood there, looking at each other. There was not a single guard at the gate of the palace. After the old man brought the 2 of them here, he left them here, regardless of whether they were asked. As for the others, they all went into the palace. There are many enchantments arranged in the palace, and the gates are tightly closed. With the strength of Yang Kai and Qin Chaoyang, it is impossible to spy on anything. Although neither of them was under any restraint, they didn't dare to act rashly at all, and could only stand there obediently. Brother Yang, tell me. Qin Chaoyang said nervously. No, Yang Kai knew what he was worried about before he finished speaking, and smiled lightly. If they are really going against us, they would have done it long ago. How can we have a chance to resist? Put us brought here, then thrown outside the door. It seems, they have to discuss it before making a decision. From what those people said just now, it seems that many people don't know who the owner of the token is. Qin hasn't figured out who he is until now. Qin Chaoyang said angrily. I don't know, it's normal. Yang Kai smiled slightly. However, the General Emperor Senior 3-layer may not have the ability to make Qingyang Temple so afraid. That person. Brother Yang means. Hearing what he said, Qin Chaoyang suddenly thought of a possibility, and whispered, one of the 10 adults. 80% is like this. Yang Kai nodded. Hiss. Qin Chaoyang gasped, and couldn't believe that he had ever come into direct contact with such a legendary figure. In the palace, a person was sitting at the head of the palace, wearing a purple shirt. His expression was calm and majestic, and his aura was as deep as the sea. This person was the master of the Qingyang Temple, a powerhouse at the 3rd level of Emperor Venerable, Wenzi shirt. And the old man Yang Kai had seen before in other Emperor Senior realms also came to this hall. All of them held their breath and listened to the information reported by the old man and Wen Zishan. Token, the man in the flowered shirt. Wen Zishan smiled when he heard the words. His smile was not very pretty, but it seemed to have a peculiar charm. When the smile bloomed, the whole palace seemed to be brightened for a moment. How, master, did you think of something? The old man asked. Old Chu. Wen Zishan didn't look like the hall master at all, and Chu Ran, the deputy hall master, was also extremely casual in addressing him in front of everyone, which made the veins on the old man's forehead twitch, but the others couldn't help but laugh. Even Gao Shueting, who had an ice-like temperament, also showed a slight arc at the corner of her mouth. Since you have thought of it yourself, why bother to ask me? Wen Zishan said, stretching out his hand to pick up a bunch of spiritual fruits next to him, holding it high above his head, biting off one, and then biting off another pieces. Mouth full of saliva. My lord, Chu Ran couldn't help shouting. Okay. Wen Zishan continued vaguely, put down the unfinished spiritual fruit in his hand, clapped his hands, stood up, and said, in this world, who else would give the symbol the token of one's identity is carved into a beggar on one side, and a jade girl on the other? Who else would show off in such tasteless clothes? There is only one answer. In the main hall, everyone held their breath and focused on Wen Zishan. At this moment, Wen Zishan's temperament also changed suddenly. His eyes were as sharp as a sword, as if he could pierce the void. He said in a deep voice, wandering in the world of mortals, playing in the world. Emperor Hongqian. Gao Shueting suddenly cried out softly. Oh, Xiaosheng is very smart, so I guessed it. Wen Zishan glanced at Gao Shueting's direction, and the previous majestic side suddenly disappeared, showing a bright smile, and said softly, I want to. What kind of reward do you want? Uncle can satisfy you. The corner of Gao Shueting's mouth twitched slightly and said, my lord, please respect yourself. I am no longer the little girl I was back then. I have already passed the age to be rewarded. And, I am already over 200 years old. 200 years old, you're still very young. Wen Zishan smiled, feeling a little lost and said, I still like you when you were young, but you are so indifferent when you grow up. Huh, Gao Shueting snorted coldly, turned her head aside, showing an expression of, I don't care about you. My lord, let's get down to business. The veins on Chu Ran's forehead throbbed even more violently, as if he couldn't bear it anymore, and his entire robe felt like it had no wind. Okay. Wen Zishan turned his face when he heard the words, and said as if nothing had happened, the great Emperor Hongqian is the most mysterious person among the 10 emperors. Old things have always been elusive, and the dragon can't see the end. Old stuff. All the emperors were shocked suddenly, and their faces twitched. What kind of people are the 10 emperors? In the mouth of my own palace master, it turned out to be an old thing. My lord, is it okay to call him that? In case that lord knows, one of the middle-aged men interjected in horror. Wen Zishan smiled and said, don't look at the old man's virtue, in fact he is still very good, he won't get angry because of such trivial things. He explained casually, and then continued, few people have seen his Hongqian token, even in the Emperor Prestige realm, few people know what the Hongqian token looks like, but This seat just happens to know. Front a picture of a jade girl coming out of the water, and a picture of a beggar begging on the back, and the materials of the token can be seen everywhere, and it is by no means a precious thing. To be continued. This text is provided by the Dawn Update Group at 87,453,198. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to filled upper left triangle first filled lower right triangle to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users, please go to read. Chapter 2125. Where have you seen you? Judging from the information you brought back, what those two Daoyuan level guys brought was indeed the Hongqian token. Anyone can imitate the Hongqian token, but the power attached to it is not random. Anyone can pour it in. Wen Zishan smiled and said, but then again, who wants to imitate that kind of token? How could these two people have the Hongqian order of the great emperor? Chu Ran frowned. Wen Zishan shrugged his shoulders and said, that lord's style of conduct, haha, but no one can guess it. It's not surprising that the two of them have orders from the world of mortals. Maybe one day, there will be many beggars again. Sister Yao or something came to my Qingyang temple with the red dust order. Everyone showed a look of indifference. Don't you believe it? Wen Zishan said. I think back then, when I founded the Qingyang temple, a group of kiln sisters came to me with a piece of red dust to ask for money. Well, at that time, I'm not there, only Xiao Shueting is with me, so naturally I don't know. There is such a thing. Everyone was shocked. With a speechless expression on her face, Chu Ran murmured, the order of the world of mortals has fallen into the hands of that kind of woman. This lord is really acting in a strange way. Unpredictable. Emperor Hongqian, well-deserved reputation. At this time, Chen Qian, the girl who had been quietly floating in the air without saying a word before Chong Dao Deacon performed the secret technique of the soul, suddenly said indifferently, speaking of which, why do you feel that the style of the Lord Palace Master and the Emperor is somewhat different? Resemblance. As soon as the words came out, everyone pondered, and the more they thought about it, the more they felt that the words made sense. The master of the hall is also talking about it all day long, and he is not serious. Still wearing such tasteless clothes. Extremely self-respecting. I'm right here. You talk about me like this in front of me, do you think I'm deaf? Wen Zishan said with a straight face. Chu Ran glanced at him, clasped her fists and said, my lord, I heard that when I was a child, my lord was adopted by the Emperor Hongqian for a while. I don't know if this is true or not. There is absolutely no such thing. My subordinates have also heard that the great emperor of the Red Dust gave his lord instruction in preaching. It's groundless. Ah, many people were shocked when they heard the words, is there such a thing? The hall master actually has such a relationship with the Hongqian emperor. I see. Wen Zishan looked at the group of people below, and said powerlessly, what do you understand? Are you trying to say that my personality was influenced by that old thing? Nonsense. I have neither relationship nor relationship with that old thing. So, how can you be influenced by him? Then why does Hongqian Ling appear frequently in my Qingyang temple? Chu Ran asked, counting this time. The order of the red dust has already appeared twice in the Qingyang temple. But I haven't heard that other forces have received the order of the world. Well, I'm very curious about what those two people came to my Qingyang temple with the order of mortals, let them come in. Wen Zishan suddenly said seriously. Chu Ran sighed deeply, feeling more and more that his Lord Palace Master resembled the great emperor of the world. But he was not ambiguous, waving. Open the gate of the palace, and at the same time transmit a voice to the outside world. Outside the hall, Yang Kai and Qin Chaoyang looked at each other, they both looked solemn, and walked side by side. After the two entered the hall door was closed again. There was a group of Emperor Senior Realm people in the room. Even if these people did not deliberately release their power, the ubiquitous coercion was still not something that Tu Dao Source First Realm could bear. Yang Kai is still relatively good, even though he feels a little difficult, he didn't make a fool of himself. Qin Chaoyang was trembling, walking all the way, clear watermarks were left on the ground, and the clothes on my body were wet with sweat. When they got closer, the two clasped their fists and saluted around. The rest of them just looked at them quietly without speaking. Wen Zishan waved his hand. An invisible force radiated out, making Yang Kai and Qin Chaoyang a lot easier. Thank you, Palace Master Wen. Yang Kai cupped his fists on the high platform to thank him. Although no one introduced him, but since he can sit in the first place here. Wearing an iconic purple shirt, he is definitely the master of the Qingyang Temple. Verified by the master of this hall, the tokens brought by the two of you are correct. Wen Zishan looked serious, looked down and said, I ask you, why did you bring this token to my Qingyang Temple? Thing. Yang Kai glanced at Qin Chaoyang beside him, but found that he was cowering, as if he didn't dare to speak. In desperation, he could only say, reporting to Palace Master Wen, the two of us are from Fenggalan City. The token was given to Brother Qin 12 years ago by an expert who was elusive and haunted, and asked him I came to Qingyang Temple after the next year, and asked Palace Master Wen to give me a place to enter the Land of Four Seasons. Huh, the Land of the Four Seasons. Wen Zishan was a little surprised, and the others also had weird expressions. I thought that these two people came to the Qingyang Temple with the Order of Mortals, and they probably wanted to make some special requests, but they just wanted a place to enter the Land of Four Seasons. Wen Zishan's spiritual thoughts swept over Qin Zhaoyang, and said lightly, this old man doesn't look like a person with outstanding talents, so, why does that old man let him enter the Land of Four Seasons? Land of Four Seasons. Although it is not a great secret realm, but because of the limited number of places to enter, only the elites of the major sects and families can enter, to explore opportunities and good luck. Among them, is there any reason to enter? Qin Chaoyang took a deep breath, and said in a deep voice, my lord, it's for one of the grandchildren of the little old man. She suffers from a chronic disease and congenital deficiency, and must be cured by a kind of spiritual fruit in the Land of the Four Seasons. My lord has seen this, so I handed over a token to Qin, and a message to come to Qingyang Temple in 12 years. That's the case. Wen Zishan nodded when he heard the words, and he didn't mean to ask carefully, but said, since the adult said it, it is not easy for the master to refuse, and it is only a matter of one quota. Hearing what he said, Qin Zhaoyang couldn't help showing great joy. He originally thought that this trip must be full of difficulties, not to mention who the owner of the token is, whether Qingyang Temple will sell this face, and even if it sells face, will it give a place? Along the way, Qin Zhaoyang was worried. But things went unexpectedly smoothly, and the quota seemed to be within easy reach. He was pleasantly surprised at once. However, when Zishan changed the subject, this matter has always been taken care of by an elder of my temple. Having said that, he turned his head and looked aside, and said, Shaoshang. As soon as the words fell, Gao Shueding gave her a vicious look. Ahem, Elder Gao. Wen Zishan quickly changed his words. My subordinates are here. Gao Shueding came out, and Su Rong replied. You heard what was said just now, how about you arrange this matter? Wen Zishan said. When Gao Shueding heard this, she couldn't help showing embarrassment. What's so difficult? Wen Zishan asked strangely, observing the situation. Qin Zhaoyang couldn't help becoming nervous. Gao Shueding glanced at Qin Chaoyang, and said, the Land of Four Seasons will open in 1 month, and the quota has already been confirmed, and I have notified those disciples, if a quota is to be withdrawn now, some people will definitely not want it. Quote. That's true. Wen Zishan showed a contemplative expression, and said to himself, entering the Land of the Four Seasons is something they have longed for, and it is really unfair to suddenly revoke the qualification of one of them. The meaning of an adult, well, this seat is in a difficult situation. Gao Shueding said, actually, my subordinate has a proposal. Oh, let's hear it. Wen Zishan's eyes lit up. Gao Shueding said, just now I heard from this old man that the purpose of entering the Land of Four Seasons is to obtain a kind of spiritual fruit to cure his grandchildren's chronic diseases. I want to ask this old man, what kind of benefits do you want to obtain by entering the Land of Four Seasons? Spirit fruit. You might as well say it if it's convenient. Maybe I already have this thing in Qingyang Temple. If that's the case, you don't have to venture in, to be honest, enter it with your strength. She paused, as if I was thinking of an appropriate wording, but in the end I still said, it may not be possible to survive. Upon hearing this, Qin Chaoyang felt that this was indeed the case, and immediately replied, Elder Wei Gao, the little old man only wants a fruit of calamity. Calamity is hard to come by. Chu Ran frowned. Gao Shueding also showed a difficult look. Wen Zishan cast his eyes on the girl named Chen Qian, and asked, Elder Chen, you have been in charge of the treasury of my temple. Is there any disaster in the treasury? Chen Qian said, subordinates need to check. How long? 1/4 of an hour. Wen Zishan nodded, closed her eyes and stopped talking. Chen Qian took out a communication compass and transmitted her spiritual thoughts inside, apparently to convey some order to the disciples below. For a while, the hall was silent. Only Qin Zhaoyang waited in fear, his heart beating wildly, worrying about gain and loss to the extreme. Yang Kai was standing there idly, but suddenly, he seemed to sense something and turned his head to look aside. Over there, Gao Shueding was looking at him. Seeing his gaze, she didn't intend to avoid it, but instead looked more intently. This made Yang Kai's heart skip a beat, secretly feeling bad. Most of the people present were in the Emperor Senior stage, so this scene quickly attracted the attention of others, and everyone couldn't help but look at Yang Kai curiously, wondering if there was something about him that Gao Shueding could care about so much. Wen Zishan even narrowed his eyes quietly, paying attention to all this with great interest. Elder Gao, what advice do you have? Yang Kai felt that it was not a problem to be stared at by others all the time, especially when the other party was still in Emperor Senior stage, which made him feel uneasy, so he simply opened his mouth to point it out. Where have I met you? Gao Shueding asked. I always think you look familiar. Ha 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 ha. Yang Kai hadn't answered yet, but Wen Zishan above laughed. Gao Shueding frowned, and gave him a displeased look. To be continued. Chapter 2126 For his good. Wen Zishan said. Elder Gao, you have always been told by men to women, and in a special atmosphere and environment, and with ulterior motives and intentions, if these words are I can still understand what this little brother said to you, but you can take the initiative to say this. It seems that something is wrong. Shut up, Gao Shueding shouted coquettishly. As soon as the words came out, Yang Kaijun was on the spot. Qin Zhaoyang was also dumbfounded, and looked at Gao Shueding with a strange expression. Although Gao Shueding is a strong person at the first level of Emperor Senior, she is just an elder in Qingyang Temple, and Wen Zishan sitting above is the hall master of the temple. As an elder, how dare you tell the hall master to shut up? Isn't this outrageous? What surprised Yang Kai and Qin Chaoyang even more was that their jaws dislocated. Wen Zishan really shut up. But looking around, other people seemed to be familiar with this scene, and they didn't blame Gao Shueding for committing crimes. Instead, a few people cast contemptuous looks at Wen Zishan. Yang Kai's mind was in a mess. The first thought that came to him was, the Wen Zishan sitting on it was a counterfeit. So Gao Shueding doesn't have to give him any face, and even other people can stare at him. But after thinking about it carefully, it was impossible. Just now, when Wen Zishan waved his hand casually, he could clearly feel the power fluctuation in his body. This guy is definitely a strong Emperor Senior 3-layer. And in the entire Qingyang Temple, he is the only one who is at the third level of Emperor Senior. Who is he if he is not Wen Zishan? Yang Kai was suddenly confused, and always felt that the group of high-level people in Qingyang Temple were a little weird. You haven't answered my question yet. Have I met you somewhere? Gao Shueding turned her head to look at Yang Kai again, and asked relentlessly. Yang Kai pondered for a while, and said, I am from Fenggalan City. Elder Gao went to Fenggalan City last time to help Master Xiao Yuyang open the 5-color pagoda. I was also there at that time, and I went in for a trial. Maybe this is Elder Gao the reason why I feel familiar. That's it. Gao Shueding read, thinking that what he said made sense. She nodded, maybe it is. After finishing speaking, ignore him. Yang Kai suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. If Gao Shueding recognized him as the demon he fought with before on this occasion, Yang Kai estimated that his end must be very bleak. Everyone waited in the hall for a while, when Chen Qian's communication compass suddenly fluctuated with spiritual thoughts. After investigating, she raised her head and shook her head at Wen Zishan. Hall Master, there is no such thing as disaster in our treasury. That really disappointed me, Wen Zishan whispered. Qin Chaoyang also showed a disappointed expression. After all, it would be the best if he could get the ready-made calamity fruit, and there is no need to let Yang Kai venture into the land of the 4 seasons, but there is no such thing in Qingyang Temple now, and I don't know what this group of emperors will do next. What kind of decision? Since there is none, Wen Zishan said, then let you go in and look for it yourself. As for whether you can find it, it depends on your own luck. He said this to Qin Chaoyang. Qin Zhaoyang was overjoyed when he heard the words. Gao Shueding frowned slightly, as if she wanted to say something, but since Wen Zishan had already spoken, she couldn't interrupt anymore. Thank you, Palace Master Wen. Qin Chaoyang bowed to the ground, but, Qin has one more request. Wen Zishan smiled slightly. Let's hear it, if it's not too much. Qin Chaoyang said. Qin asks the Hall Master to hand over the quota of entering the 4 seasons land to Brother Yang. While he was talking, he stretched out his finger to Yang Kai, and said with embarrassment, You must have noticed that Qin is old, and although his cultivation is at the first level of Daoyuan, he still knows his own strength. It's clear, Elder Gao also said just now, if I go in with my ability, I may not be able to come out alive, my death is minor, but if I don't get the fruit of calamity. You mean, if you let him in, he can come out alive? Wen Zishan asked with great interest. Qin Chaoyang said, Brother Yang's words are much stronger than Qin's. You're pretty self-aware. Wen Zishan smiled softly, since you've asked so, then I'll allow it. Anyway, the Lord only said that he would give you a quota. Whoever it is, you can decide for yourself. Thank you, Palace Master Wen. Qin Zhaoyang thanked him happily. Wen Zishan turned to look at Yang Kai again, and said, I don't know what relationship you have with this old man, but I have to remind you that it is not safe in the land of 4 seasons, because the source power in your body is strong. The degree of majesty is considered an elite, but whoever enters there is not an elite. Be careful to fall into a big somersault inside. Yang Kai grinned, I just want to meet the elite disciples of the great sects. Young man, be high-spirited. I don't know the heights of the sky and the depths of the earth. The first level of Daoyuan, it can only be regarded as the bottom of it. The Emperor Senior Realm powerhouses in the hall started talking one after another. Wen Zishan smiled and said, It's very good to have this momentum, I hope you can maintain it even when you enter it. Well, you too, leave now, when the day of departure, someone will come to greet you. While speaking, he waved his hand casually. Before Yang Kai and Qin Chaoyang could react, they had already arrived outside the main hall. They stood outside and glanced at each other, and after waiting for a while, there was a beam of light shooting from afar, and when they got closer, they found that it was the Deacon Dao Mingtao that they had met before. It's just that at this moment Dao Ming no longer had the aggressive aura he used to have before. He rushed forward in a panic, rushed forward and cupped his hands at the two of them, saying, You two, please follow me. Saying this, he led the way first, followed by Yang Kai and Qin Chaoyang. In the hall, after Wen Zishan sent Yang Kai and Qin Chaoyang away, he turned his head to look aside and said, Xiao Shueting, do you want to say something else? Gao Shueting frowned and said, Master, if you do this, it will make me very embarrassed. Wen Zishan smiled and said, It's just a quota, just squeeze one out. Gao Shueting snorted coldly, and said, Okay, I will send an order later, saying that the master will draw a quota, and this matter has nothing to do with me. Yes. Wen Zishan nodded, and said, If anyone refuses to accept it, ask him to come to me for an argument. He was so straightforward that Gao Shueting was taken aback. Chen Qian Dao. Actually, my subordinates think that it is not necessary to give them quotas. At most, let the disciples go inside and help find the fruit of disaster. If it is not possible, let Sister Gao stay at the exit of the secret realm and wait until the secret realm is closed. Look for those who come out to buy it, maybe you can gain something. You know, my Qingyang temple family is not the only one who entered, maybe someone got that kind of spiritual fruit. Wen Zishan said, Although what Xiao Chen said is good, but, this is the request of that adult, and I really can't refuse it. Let's stop here, and give them a place. Speaking of this, he smiled evilly, as for whether they can keep it, it depends on their ability. If they can't even keep the quota, then it's worth not going, anyway, it's going to die. At that time, it will not be considered that I have violated the wishes of that adult. Hearing this, Gao Shueting's eyes lit up, she nodded and said, This subordinate knows what to do. After Wen Zishan nodded slightly, his figure flickered and disappeared. Others also gradually dispersed. In the end, only Chen Qian and Gao Shueting were left. Sister Gao, who do you want to take action? Chen Qian asked. Gao Shueting thought for a while and said, What do you think of Shui Yi? Shui Yi. Chen Qian didn't seem to have much impression of this person. After hearing this and thinking for a while, she said, He is at the second level of Daoyuan. That Yang can handle it. Among the 20 people, Shui Yi's strength is considered to be below average. If the person surnamed Yang can't even handle Shui Yi, what is he going to do? The land of 4 seasons is not a place to play, and the fruit of disaster is not easy to find. Yes, I do it for his own good. What Sister Gao said makes sense. Chen Qian nodded, but she always felt that something was wrong. On a lone peak, thousands of miles away from the previous main hall, Dao Ming brought Yang Kai and Qin Chaoyang here, placed them in a palace on the peak, and left alone. Yang Kai checked a little bit and found that there was no one on the isolated peak, in other words, only him and Qin Zhaoyang were here. It's also leisurely. After chatting for a while, the two found a room each. During this trip, Qin Chaoyang was exhausted with fear, so he naturally wanted to recover his strength quickly and return to Fenggalan City. And Yang Kai needs to take this opportunity to refine the flying secret treasure that Dianfeng gave him and the Emperor Treasure Million Sword. The grade of the Million Sword is too high, so you don't need to think about how thorough the refinement is. You can only strengthen your connection with it a little bit. Fortunately, Yang Kai has the sacrifice experience left by the ancestors of the Qin family in his hand, so he can avoid some detours. There is not much time. After all, according to Gao Shueding's previous statement, the Land of Four Seasons will open in a month, and the time to travel is also counted. Yang Kai estimates that after half a month at most, someone will call him to set off. So he races against time. After 5 hurried days, Qin Zhaoyang recovered. After telling Yang Kai some things, he left and set off. In the current situation, it would be useless for him to continue to stay. Since Yang Kai had already decided to enter the Land of Four Seasons, it would be a waste of time for him to stay here, so he simply went back home. After Yang Kai sent him away, he was the only one left in the entire palace. On this day, he was retreating in the wing room, when he suddenly felt 2 tyrannical auras approaching from far and fast towards this side. The visitors did not hide their intentions. One of them exuded the aura of the 3rd layer Daoyuan, and the other was the 2nd layer Daoyuan. Let's go so soon. Yang Kai frowned, and muttered to himself. He thought it was sent by the Qingyang temple to call him to gather. Thinking of this, he no longer hesitated, got up quickly, walked out of the room, and came wait outside the hall. To be continued. This text is provided by the Breaking Dawn update group at 87,453,198. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to filled upper left triangle first filled lower right triangle to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users, please go to read. Chapter 2127 The Strong Get It. Chapter 2127. In a short while, 2 rays of light flashed and landed not far in front of Yang Kai, revealing the figures of the two. The person on the left, dressed in white like snow, with starry eyes and sword eyebrows, has an extraordinary temperament, exuding a sharp aura from all over his body, like a sharp sword out of its sheath. This person has the Daoyuan 3rd layer cultivation, so Yang Kai can't help but look at him a few more times. The aura on the opponent's body gave him a slight pressure, as if the sharp aura could cut his skin through the air, which shocked him slightly. He thought in his heart that he was worthy of being an elite disciple of the great sect, but the aura emitted intentionally or unintentionally was not something that ordinary Daoyuan 3rd layer realm could do. The one on the right has a wide mouth and a nose, a burly figure, wearing a short shirt and shorts on his lower body, black hair on his thick calf, and the same on his arms. At first glance, this person looks like an upright gorilla, giving people a strong visual impact. This person has the cultivation realm of Daoyuan 2-layer realm. After the two fell down, they all turned their eyes to Yang Kai. Yang Kai in Fenggalan City, I have seen you too. Yang Kai cupped his fists and said, I don't know how to call you too. The white-clothed man's expression was cold and indifferent, as if he didn't hear Yang Kai's words, but the burly man like a gorilla suddenly shouted, Hey, you are that Yang Kai. Yang Kai was stunned, but still nodded solemnly, and said, If there is no one else in your palace with this name, then it will be me. Very good. Seeing this, the burly man grinned ferociously, glanced up and down at Yang Kai with a look of looking at prey, and said in a buzzing voice, It's you who stole the old man's quota to enter the secret realm. I see you are impatient. Yang Kai heard the words, and immediately knew that these two people were not friends who came to welcome him to the secret realm. Probably, they were here to ask for trouble. He frowned and said, My friend misunderstood. It is a bit complicated for me to explain this unilaterally. Why don't you ask Elder Gao? I think she will give you a satisfactory answer. HMPH, there's no need to ask. The burly man snorted coldly. Elder Gao has already told me that he wants to cancel my quota and hand it over to you, but the uncle refuses to accept it. The quota of the uncle, but through the sect's martial arts, fought bloody battles. If you got it, why would you want to snatch it as soon as you come? Zongman performing martial arts? Yang Kai frowned. At this time, the white-clothed man who hadn't spoken all this time suddenly said, 3 months ago, my temple disciples had an internal competition in the sect, and only the top 20 disciples in the competition could get the admission to the Land of the Four Seasons. Qualifications, Shui Yi, ranks 15th. It turned out to be Brother Shui. Yang Kai finally knew the name of the burly man, and looked at the man in white curiously and asked, "What's your name?" "This is senior brother Xiao Bai." Shui Yi snorted coldly. "I'm a little curious, brother Xiao's ranking in that sect's martial arts performance is?" Yang Kai asked tentatively. "Senior brother Xiao is number 2. Shui Yi said proudly. After finishing speaking, he was stunned for a moment, and then sternly shouted, "You bastard, don't try to change the subject. I asked brother Xiao to accompany me today to tell you if you want to snatch the entry quota from me, you have to ask me if you agree or not. Don't think that you can do whatever you want with the support of Elder Gao, be careful that I will crush your head." While speaking, he opened his big palm-like hand, shook it fiercely, and threatened Yang Kai viciously. Yang Kai smiled and said, "Then how can brother Shui agree to give up this quota?" "It's very simple," Xiao Bai said lightly, "our quotas are all obtained through the sect's martial arts performance. I don't think anyone else will say much." "That's right," Shui Yi nodded fiercely, "kill me, or, be killed by me, the one who lives will have the quota." "This is not good." Yang Kai showed hesitation. What these two guys said was so bloody, it made him feel creepy. If he was killed by Shui Yi, it would be fine, but if he killed Shui Yi, he might make a huge mess. "It's nothing bad." Xiao Bai's expression remained indifferent. "Or, are you afraid? What did brother Xiao provoke me to do?" Yang Kai smiled wryly. "Hey, if you're really scared, it's still too late to leave the Qingyang Mountains. With your weak cultivation at the first level of Daoyuan, I'm really worried that I'll accidentally kill you." Shui Yi laughed arrogantly. "Hey," Yang Kai sighed and said, "I understand what you two are here for." He didn't expect that he would cause such troubles just to get a place to enter the land of 4 seasons. If possible, he naturally didn't want to have any fight with the warriors of Qingyang Temple. But seeing Shui Yi being so aggressive, he couldn't resolve the matter even if he tolerated it. After all, he agreed to Qin Chaoyang, and even used the jade beggar order left by the expert, so he must go to the land of 4 seasons. "Since the two of you are so kind, then Yang will be disrespectful. Brother Xiao, I ask you to be a witness of the process and the result of this matter." "Don't worry." Seeing that Yang Kai actually agreed, Xiao Bai seemed a little surprised. He thought that he and Shui Yi would come in person, and after threatening the other party, wouldn't the crap out of fright and flee in panic. But things turned out not to be like this. He said indifferently, "I came here this time on behalf of junior brother Shui to witness this matter. No matter how the two of you win or lose, or if you are in a dangerous situation, I will not interfere. Brother Xiao seems to be a trustworthy person." Yang Kai grinned, "Then there is trouble. You still take care of yourself, don't die too easily, otherwise the rumors will spread, and it will not be good for my temple's reputation." Xiao Bai narrowed his eyes slightly. In the void, 2 beautiful figures were hiding aside, watching quietly below. Chen Qian said, "This guy surnamed Yang, is quite courageous." Facing Shui Yi, who is 1 level above him, he doesn't even have the slightest intention of shrinking back. "Boldness has nothing to do with strength," Gao Shueding said lightly. While speaking, he suddenly raised his head and glanced at the void, twitched the corner of his mouth, and snorted, "I'm not doing my job properly. I have to watch the excitement for such a trivial matter, how decent it is." Hearing this, Chen Qian also looked over there, pursed her lips and said with a smile, "My lord, I'm afraid you'll be bored." At this moment, Wen Zishan's voice came from the ears of the 2 women, "Are you 2 beauties interested in coming to accompany the lord for a drink? The lord has specially prepared here." "Not interested in. I don't want to go." The 2 women refused him without waiting for him to finish speaking, without any room for negotiation. Wen Zishan was stunned for a moment, with a heartbroken look on his face, and sighed, "With wine and no company, life is unsatisfactory in all likelihood. Be serious, be careful that I will overturn your table." Gao Shueding looked over there coldly. Wen Zishan slapped his face and said in despair, "How did I raise you into such a cold personality? It's not like me at all." Gao Shueding snorted, "Are you my father or something? Why should I be like you?" Wen Zishan was speechless for a moment. Gao Shueding raised the corner of her mouth, revealing a hidden smile. "Senior brother Xiao, did he agree to fight me?" Shui Yi turned his head and asked. "I agree." Xiao Bai nodded. "Then I can make a move?" Shui Yi asked again. He didn't mean to wait for Xiao Bai's answer at all. As soon as he said this, he rushed directly in front of Yang Kai, punching Yang Kai. It's Yang Kai's quick reaction. he didn't expect this gorilla-like man to be so cunning. He didn't notice for a while, the opponent's fist had already hit his face. The wind of the fist was raging, and above the fist, there was an extremely strong destructive force, condensed at one point, and a cold light bloomed. Under Yang Kai's shock, he could only step forward and then retreat. Shui Yi's huge body showed incongruous agility. Like a tarsal maggot, he kept a very close distance from Yang Kai, and said with a sneer, "Boy, if you can survive, you can do it yourself in the future." After the words fell, the punch hit Yang Kai's face. Accompanied by a cracking sound, violent power raged out, and Yang Kai's body flew towards the rear uncontrollably, directly hitting the wall of the palace, knocking out a big hole in the solid wall. Rumbling. A series of sounds came from the palace, as if Yang Kai was smashed into several walls. After a while, the sound gradually disappeared. "It's boring." Shui Yi shook his casserole-sized fist, snorted coldly, and said without even looking at Yang Kai's direction, "Senior brother Xiao, let's go." Xiao Bai remained motionless, squinting his eyes and looking forward. His sharp eyes seemed to be able to penetrate the void. Suddenly, his expression changed, and he said in a low voice, "It's not over yet." "Huh." Shui Yi turned his head suddenly when he heard the words. "I saw a person slowly walking out of the hole in the broken wall, shaking his arms while walking, grinning as if telling his pain. It's blocked." At a critical moment, Wen Zishan squinted and looked down, and praised, "The response is good." At that moment just now, Wen Zishan clearly saw Yang Kai crossing his arms suddenly, blocking in front of him. Shui Yi's shocking blow hit both arms directly, but didn't hit the head. Otherwise, with his tyrannical strength, Yang Kai would have passed out even if his head hadn't been blown off. The physical body is very strong. This kid surnamed Yang. Gao Shueting also shrank her beautiful eyes. Chen Qian said, "I remember, Shui Yi has cultivated the Vajra Heavenly King body, right?" Gao Shueting nodded. "He started cultivating when he was in the Void King realm. If I'm not mistaken, he should have cultivated to the 6th floor. In terms of physical strength, among all Daoyuan realm disciples, except for that person, he's top-notch." Received Shui Yi's blow head-on, and it seems that there is no damage. This Yang should have practiced the body tempering technique. Chen Qian was thoughtful. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users, please go to read. Chapter 2128. Make a bet. Shouting Shay, how about we fight poison? At this moment, Wen Zishan transmitted the sound again. What bet? Gao Shueting turned her head and looked over there. Bet on the two of them, who will win? Wen Zishan smiled slightly and pointed down. Where's the bet? Gao Shueting asked coldly. Well, let me think about it. Wen Zishan showed a thoughtful look. Oh, by the way, Xiao Shueting, didn't you always want to enter the gate of life and death to experience? If you win, I will allow you, so what? Is this true? Gao Shueting's beautiful eyes narrowed, and she shouted coquettishly. On the side, Chen Qian, who heard the words, life and death gate, also changed her expression. When did this seat cheat you? Wen Zishan showed a harmless smile as he spoke. Gao Shueting stared at Wen Zishan, as if she wanted to see into the depths of his heart, but the other party still maintained that gentle and dazzling smile. After a while, Gao Shueting looked away and said, Indeed, although you every day, he is idle, does not do business properly, has no righteous conduct, and lacks the temperament and demeanor of a sect of suzerain. Wen Zishan's face turned dark when he heard this, and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. Hearing your evaluation, I feel that I am useless. Gao Shueting changed the subject and said, but you really haven't lied to anyone. This seat only has this advantage. Wen Zishan looked dejected. Then if you win, what do you want? Gao Shueting asked coldly. Wen Zishan chuckled, and his bright eyes scanned Gao Shueting several times. The latter felt uncomfortable when he looked at him, his face flushed slightly, and he snorted, put away your dirty thoughts and thoughts quickly, and be careful that I will dig out your eyeballs. Where did you think? Wen Zishan laughed and said, well, that's good. If I win, you promise me a small request that will not violate your principles and is not too much. A small request? What kind of request? Gao Shueting asked warily. Well, I haven't thought about it yet. How about I tell you when I think about it? Wen Zishan laughed. Sister Gao, don't be fooled. The Lord Palace Master doesn't know what he wants to do. Chen Qian kindly reminded from the side, lest Gao Shueting would fall into Wen Zishan's trap impulsively. I know. Gao Shueting nodded, turned her head to look down while speaking, and continued, but he has to win this bet first, otherwise there is no point in saying anything. While speaking, she nodded to Wen Zishan and said, "Okay, I agree. It's a deal." Wen Zishan chuckled, "Don't go back on your word. You should prepare the pass order for me to enter the gate of life and death first." Chen Qian sighed, with a look of helplessness. Although she didn't think that Yang Kai's strength could defeat Shui Yi, who was ranked 15th in the source of the Qingyang Temple, but she always had a bad feeling in her heart. Although the Lord is not serious in various ways, he is still very reliable at critical times. Chen Qian didn't think that Wen Zishan would really let Gao Shueding enter the gate of life and death, so he should have great confidence in this gamble. Thinking of this, she quickly looked down. Below, Shui Yi looked at Yang Kai, who was walking in a little bit of surprise, and said with a sneer, "It's fine to just lie there obediently. Why do you want to come out? You are looking for your own death. My friend is insidious enough, be taught." Yang Kai snorted. At this moment, a voice suddenly came from next to his ear. "Boy, work hard, beat your opponent to the ground, and I can promise you a request that is not too much." Hearing this voice, Yang Kai was taken aback. Because this voice is clearly the voice of Wen Zishan, the master of Qingyang Temple. He had only met this man a few days ago, so he was naturally familiar with his voice, and probably no one in the chief rudder of Qingyang Temple dared to pretend to be Wen Zishan to transmit his voice to him. In other words, it was Wen Zishan himself who transmitted the voice to him. "What are you doing?" Yang Kai frowned, released his spiritual mind, and scanned around, but found no trace of Wen Zishan. The master of a sect secretly sent a voice transmission to himself, an outsider, to make him work hard to beat down the elite disciples of his own sect. If such a funny thing hadn't happened to Yang Kai himself, he wouldn't have will believe it. And, Wen Zishan actually said that he could promise himself a request that was not too much. What does that mean? It's because Yang Kai is very shrewd, and he can't understand the whole story. And at the moment when he lost his mind, a fierce attack had already struck close. "What are you thinking? How dare the enemy be distracted in front of you? Don't look down on people." Shui Yi's words came along with the attack. The vortex seemed to destroy everything in front of it. "Enemy." Yang Kai raised his head suddenly, staring at Shui Yi with icy eyes, revealing a kind of disdain. Facing the shocking blow, he did not dodge or dodge, and also punched fiercely. Boom! There was a loud bang and the sky trembled. The place where the two stood suddenly collapsed downwards, forming a huge round pit directly. The ground was torn apart, and cracks like spider webs crisscrossed. Chi 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 chi. On the front of the fist, the two clashed with each other, making ear-piercing sounds. The surrounding gravel and clods were affected, and slowly floated up into the air as if weightless. Within a radius of 100 feet, the space was distorted several times. How many times? Shui Yi raised his thick eyebrows slightly, and looked at Yang Kai, who was close at hand unexpectedly. Just now he punched Yang Kai flying. He thought that his opponent was nothing more than that, but now after the real confrontation, he found that the opponent's strength is very strong. Even though he is a small realm lower than himself, it seems that it is not so easy to defeat. Not far away, Xiao Bai also showed a look of astonishment, and his expression moved slightly. "How many times have you?" Yang Kai replied, the corners of his mouth raised, and he sneered, "On the mouth." After saying that, he suddenly swung out another fist, swung it in an arc, and slammed it towards Shui Yi's cheek. Shui Yi was not afraid, just snorted coldly, raised his arm to block, and blocked the attack. He didn't pause at all, his arm flicked his fingers leisurely, taking advantage of the gap between Yang Kai's attack, he launched another attack. Yang Kai's reaction was natural and he retracted his fist into a palm, holding it in front of his neck, and when Shui Yi's attack came, he squeezed it hard and grabbed it suddenly, as if he wanted to crush his fist. Naive. Shui Yi grinned grinningly, leaning back slightly, kicking Yang Kai's abdomen with a foot that stood on the ground like a cannonball. Yang Kai slammed his elbow down, and before he could attack, he would dissolve it invisible. The two of them fought like lightning and flint, and directly used the situation of close hand-to-hand combat to quickly test, attack, and counterattack. The movements of each other are all smooth and flowing, without routines, and the people watching are dazzled and amazed. A trace of seriousness finally appeared in Xiao Baiyi's eyes. Although he ranks second in Zhongmen Yanwu, if he fights Shui Yi in close quarters like this, he will definitely fall below, but that Yang Kai can fight Shui Yi evenly matched. In other words, in the field of melee combat, his level is the same as that of Shui Yi. What makes Xiao Bai unacceptable is, Yang Kai only has the level of Daoyuan first level. A level lower than Shui Yi, a small realm 2 levels lower than myself. Where did this guy pop out of? I and Shui Yi are the elites of Qingyang Temple. Bang bang bang. In front of the palace, 2 figures crisscrossed, flickering back and forth. No secret treasures and secret techniques were used, only the collision of the physical body and the source force. The rough fighting style bloomed with wild beauty, which made people dazzled. Deep pits appeared one after another on the ground, the void was collapsed by the berserk force, the battlefield shifted several times, and the entire isolated peak was in a mess. Sister Gao. Chen Qian was stunned. Although she was shocked that she had underestimated Yang Kai's ability for a while, she was more worried about the bet between Gao Shueting and the unscrupulous palace master. The one surnamed Yang really won, and with the hostile taste of the master, I don't know what shameful thing Gao Shueting will be asked to do. Damn it, I missed it. Gao Shueting also gritted her teeth and glared viciously in the direction of Wen Zishan, only to see that the old god was leisurely tasting wine and eating spiritual fruits. With an expression of winning, the already depressed mood became even worse. Do you think you are sure to win? Gao Shueting said coldly. If that's the case, then don't blame me for using my trump card. At this point, she stared down again, and her divine sense moved slightly. Below, Shui Yi, who was fighting with Yang Kai, suddenly showed a look of panic, and shouted, "Don't." At this moment, he seemed to have been greatly stimulated, and his whole body showed a frightened expression. Yang Kai didn't care what happened to him, he just punched him in the face. Shui Yi let out a strange cry, his body flew up high like a paper kite with a broken thread, blood flowed from his nostrils in midair, and fell heavily to the ground. Huh, Xiao Bai stared at this scene in astonishment. He really didn't understand what Shui Yi was doing at that moment just now, and he was hit head-on by Yang Kai when he was evenly matched. It seems like a disservice. Wen Zishan gloated at Gao Shueting and smiled in the void. Gao Shueting snorted coldly, and said, "Stop talking nonsense, just wait and see." Wen Zishan was boring, but he didn't care, anyway, he has always been shameless. On the other side, Shui Yi, who fell on the ground, slowly got up, stretched out his hand to wipe the bottom of his nose, laughed grinningly, and said, "I don't want to be imprisoned for half a year, that damn place in Haigufeng, it's not for people." What nonsense are you talking about? Are you stunned? Yang Kai squinted at him. I just want to say, you're finished. Shui Yi's eyes suddenly burst into extremely dangerous light, and the whole body also glowed with light. I just wanted to teach you a lesson, but now, may kill you by mistake. As soon as the words fell, the light on his body suddenly exploded, and accompanied by a terrifying roar, the exposed skin and flesh suddenly became like poured steel, with a metallic luster. To be continued. This text is provided by the Breaking Dawn update group at Woai Xiao Hua Ti. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2129 You Don't Care. The Peak of Martial Arts Chapter 2129 You Don't Care. At the same time, Shui Yi's aura is also rising steadily. He, who only has a cultivation base of the second level of Daoyuan, exudes a tyrannical aura comparable to that of the third level. Yang Kai narrowed his eyes and looked at Shui Yi after the big change, and smiled slightly, body tempering technique. While speaking, he snapped his fingers and shot out 2 beams of source force, hitting Shui Yi. This was just a test, and Shui Yi obviously saw it, and he didn't dodge or avoid it. Boom, 2 sounds came, and the attack landed on Shui Yi's body, as if attacking on steel, making a crisp sound. Not only that, but sparks sputtered out. It's useless, in front of my Vajra Heavenly King, all your attacks are futile. Shui Yi raised his head slightly, and said condescendingly to Yang Kai in a posture of looking down. Is it futile? You will know later. Yang Kai didn't want to talk to him, and disappeared from the spot in a flash. Shui Yi's eyes narrowed, his brows furrowed tightly. At that moment, he lost track of Yang Kai, and the speed of the other party was beyond imagination. But as an elite disciple of the Qingyang Temple, he was also panicked and unruffled, instinctively stretched out a big hand like a cattail fan, and grabbed behind him. Over there, Yang Kai's figure really appeared, as if throwing himself into a trap, he slammed into his big hand. A sinister smile emerged from the corner of Shui Yi's mouth, and he stomped his big feet on the ground. In an instant, the earth shook and the mountains shook. Accompanied by a muffled growl, an earth dragon shot out from the ground, shaking its head and tail, strangling towards Yang Kai. The power of law lingers on the Earth Dragon, which is obviously some kind of secret art practiced by Shui Yi. The Earth Dragon castrated extremely quickly, and rushed to Yang Kai in one breath. Yang Kai stood up in the air, and was about to sneak attack Shui Yi. There was no time or space to evade. When Tu Long opened his mouth, he bit Yang Kai in his mouth. With another effort, Yang Kai's body broke into two pieces. Shui Yi didn't feel the joy and relaxation after he got it, but was taken aback. At that moment, he didn't get the feeling of attacking the entity, but looking around, it was as expected. The bitten-off body turned into a puff of green smoke and disappeared. It was just an afterimage. Not good. Shui Yi snorted and looked forward quickly. Yang Kai appeared in front of him at some point, with a low body and sharp and firm eyes. Aiming at his lower abdomen, both fists turned into countless afterimages in a slight shake. Bang bang bang. Shui Yi's tall body kept retreating as if he had been hit hard, and the halo of power burst out continuously from the lower abdomen, and there was a violent sound. King Kong, barrier. Shui Yi roared suddenly, and a layer of earthy yellow halo suddenly appeared around him, wrapping his whole body like a cylinder. After performing this defensive secret technique, he clasped his fists together and slammed down hard. Boom! Dust splashes. A huge deep pit appeared on the ground, but Yang Kai was nowhere to be seen. 10 jong away, Yang Kai stood still, with a thoughtful look on his face. After refining the blood of the real dragon, the dragon bone and the dragon ball, my own strength and reaction seem to have increased a lot. Perhaps, there is also the effect of the continuous refining and absorption of the Wanbao medicine soup. After all, I drank it at that time. It's completely refined, it's only stored in flesh and blood. He thought to himself. Change to before. He absolutely cannot use this method to cause damage to an enemy like Shui Yi, but now. On the opposite side, Shui Yi seemed unscathed, but his breath seemed to be a little disordered, and there was even a trace of blood spilling from the corner of his mouth. How could it be? Xiao Baiyi's heart was full of turmoil. In the Zongman's martial arts performance 3 months ago, he had confronted Shui Yi head-on, so he naturally knew the power of his King Kong body. Even if he wanted to break through that impenetrable defense, it would not be easy for him. That battle was still fresh in his memory, and it took him a full hour to defeat Shui Yi by all means. But what he saw in front of him, Yang Kai injured Shui Yi with only physical strength. So, he still has spare energy in the previous battle. With this thought coming out, Xiao Baiyi was almost thrown into a mess by the wind. This person is by no means as simple as it seems on the surface. Either he hid his true cultivation, or he came from an extraordinary background. Xiao Baiyi secretly guessed in his heart. Brother Shui is not bad, he has developed a good ability to be beaten. Yang Kai stood not far away, smiling at Shui Yi. Shui Yi had long since lost his previous arrogance and carelessness. Ever since he was injured, he realized that something was wrong. He has already refined the Vajra Heavenly King body to the 6th level, and his physical body is so strong that even the emperors in the sect praised him, but now he was injured by a little-known Daoyuan 1st level. If anyone had told him this would happen before, he would have probably just laughed it off. But the facts are right in front of us. But, Yang Kai spoke, his eyes sharpened again, I will only get beaten, but I can't beat me. Don't be so shameless. Shui Yi became angry with embarrassment, the corners of his eyes twitched violently, and his whole expression suddenly became ferocious, and he shouted, if you really die later, don't blame me. When the words fell, he made a seal with both hands. A mysterious force erupted from his body, and his burly figure suddenly grew taller. With muscles piled up on his body, the metallic luster became more dazzling, and a dazzling white light bloomed. He kicked his feet, his fists flashed with light, and unexpectedly sacrificed a knuckle-like secret treasure, exuding an extremely dangerous aura, and rushed towards Yang Kai. At this moment, the white light on his body spread out layer by layer, lingering around the peak, making the whole world seem to be a white world. It's not good, I really have to go all out. Wen Zishan squinted and looked down, secretly preparing to intervene if the situation is wrong. After all, Shui Yi is an elite disciple of the sect, and Yang Kai is a guest. Whoever died was not what he wanted to see. It's quite unexpected that the boy surnamed Yang can push Shui Yi to such an extent. Chen Qian was slightly surprised. This is also a talent. I don't know if the Lord Palace Master has any plans to recruit him into the sect. It's not a bad idea to enter the sect, it's just. Just what? It's just that I always feel. I've seen this guy surnamed Yang somewhere, and it's very dangerous. Chen Qian looked at Gao Shueding in astonishment, as if she didn't understand what she was talking about. But at this moment, in the vast white world, colorful rays of light suddenly bloomed. The multicolored rays of light are dazzling, like a sharp blade that cuts a hole in the white world. The power of the 5 elements. Gao Shueding raised her eyebrows, her face full of surprise. She felt the power of the 5 elements from the colorful rays of light, which interacted and restrained each other, and the cycle was endless. A steady stream of. In the whole world, it seems that only the colorful rays of light and the white battle are left. The cut hole was enlarged for a while, and Shui Yi's unwilling roar and Yang Kai's continuous muffled groan came from inside. The battle between the two has obviously entered a fierce stage. Xiao Bai, who was watching the battle below, had to use secret techniques to withstand the impact of that terrifying force. 3 months. Has grown to this level. Xiao Bai was extremely shocked. It seems that Shui Yi has worked very hard. He can be sure that Shui Yi is stronger now than he was 3 months ago. If he had such strength 3 months ago, it is possible to break into the top 10. But even so, the boy named Yang Kai can still compete with him. Yudi, a low voice came out. Millions of sword lights devour wolves month by month. The words fell in the sky. Suddenly, countless dazzling sword glows shot out, all showing multicolored rays of light, full of the power of the 5 elements. Unstoppable. At the same time, an extraordinary energy fluctuation swayed leisurely. Chi 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 chi. The white world suddenly shattered, leaving only a mass of colorful light standing quietly in midair. Shui Yi's body was full of wounds, and he fell down from the sky with an expression of unwillingness and helplessness. His face was extremely pale, and his metallic body also lost its previous luster. The knuckle treasure on his hands. Equally lackluster. Seeing that Shui Yi was about to fall heavily to the ground, Xiao Bai quickly shook. Come under him and catch him. He checked Shui Yi's injuries and found that he was fine, but he was exhausted, so he was relieved. Looking up again, Xiao Bai stared coldly at Yang Kai, who was in the air, his eyes fixed on the broadsword in his hand, and coldly snorted, Emperor Treasure. Yang Kai grinned. Relying on the suppressing power of the Emperor Treasure, what kind of ability is it? Xiao Bai looked contemptuous. Yang Kai wondered. He can use the secret treasure, but I can't. If you have the ability, fight with junior brother Shui on an equal footing. The look of disdain on Xiao Bai's face grew stronger. In his opinion, the reason why Yang Kai was able to win suddenly was entirely relying on the power of Emperor Treasure. If he really relied on his own ability, he might not be able to win against Shui Yi. If you have the ability, let him find an Emperor Treasure to fight with me. Yang Kai said, looking proud instead of ashamed. Very good. Xiao Bai looked very angry, staring at Yang Kai coldly and said, You have won this battle, I hope you can come back from the land of 4 seasons alive. After finishing speaking, he didn't bother to pay attention to Yang Kai anymore, picked up Shui Yi on his back and flew out. After he left, Yang Kai looked up at the void and said, Is that all right? In the void, a figure flashed, and Wen Zishan appeared, staring curiously at the million sword in Yang Kai's hand, and said, You boy, where did you get the Emperor Treasure? This thing is not a rotten street product. You don't care. Wen Zishan was so choked that he couldn't help but rolled his eyes, but soon, his expression changed, and he said solemnly, You have good intentions, and you can see that Shui Yi's behavior will get worse the longer it lasts. It's dangerous, you might lose your sanity, and use the Emperor Treasure to solve it quickly, but it's a pity. I was misunderstood. I just enjoy the pleasure suppressed by Emperor Bao. Yang Kai snorted coldly. Hee, Xiao Bai is not as easy to deal with as Shui Yi. What he left behind before leaving makes people very concerned. Maybe he will attack you in the land of 4 seasons. Would you like me to explain to him? To be continued. Chapter 2130. The situation has changed. Don't bother. Yang Kai pouted. Wen Zishan smiled, but was not angry. After thinking for a while, he said, Then. Would you like me to refine this Emperor Treasure for you? I think your compatibility with this Emperor Treasure is very low, it can't even display its full power. There is not much time left for you, if you have this seat to help. I guarantee that you will be able to exert 1/10 of its power after entering the land of 4 seasons. Yes, let you be invincible and invincible in the secret realm, how about it? He has a persuasive and seductive expression, as if he wants to give Yang Kai great benefits. Yang Kai shook his head, looked at him teasingly, and said, Master Wen, are you so impatient for me to make a request? When Wen Zishan heard this, the corner of his mouth twitched, and he read in a low voice, "Damn it, it was seen through." Yang Kai laughed and said, "The boy will think carefully about the request, and when he thinks about it properly, he will come to Master Wen to honor it." He thought very clearly that Wen Zishan was a strong third-level emperor, and even the master of the Qingyang temple. Although this person felt a little unscrupulous and unreliable to him, such a strong man always kept promises. He promised himself that after defeating Shui Yi, he could make a request that was not too much, and he would definitely fulfill it. Yang Kai doesn't have anything to ask right now, so it's better not to mention it, and save it for later use, maybe it can be of great help at a certain critical time. The boy is too insidious and cunning, Wen Zishan said bitterly, but soon, he showed an indifferent expression, waved his hands and said, "Forget it, you deserve it. You will come to Luiying Peak after 7 days gather, someone will take you to set off at that time." "Yes." Yang Kai nodded, clasped his fists and bowed, "Send off Palace Master Wen." Wen Zishan smiled slightly, his body gradually faded, and after a few breaths, he disappeared completely. After he left, Yang Kai frowned and glanced at the void on the other side with a blank expression. He always felt that there seemed to be someone hiding there, but he couldn't find out, but if the other party was Emperor Senior Realm, then everything would make sense. Since the other party didn't take the initiative to show up, they probably came to see the fun, so Yang Kai naturally wouldn't ask for trouble. He turned around and walked towards the dilapidated palace. "This kid surnamed Yang seems to have discovered us." Chen Qian stared at Yang Kai's back in surprise, and said softly, "It should be just a suspicion," Gao Shueting said, "but even so, his senses are not as sharp as usual. This person is very interesting. Sister Gao, do you think he came from there?" Gao Shueting turned to look at her. Chen Qian said, "If it wasn't for the place where he was born, how could he have such strength, and even have Emperor treasure beside him? He only has the first level of Daoyuan." Gao Shueting shook her head. "If it really came from there, it is impossible for us not to know. But, the rising stars of this generation are really able to come out in large numbers." Chen Qian heard the words, nodded and said, "Yes. Princess Lanzun perfectly inherited the Mingyu phantom body of Emperor Mingyu, and I heard that she was promoted to Daoyuan realm more than a year ago, and she will definitely go to the land of 4 seasons this time. Tianwu, as for the Holy Land, there seems to be a yin and yang twin body. Although the Zhuang Bufan of Wuhua Palace has no special physique, he is talented and intelligent. It is even more Daoyuan third-layer realm. Although the 2 major chambers of commerce are mainly merchants, they have recruited many outstanding talents in recent years. Suddenly, this southern region is already their southern region, and I am already old." Quote. Gao Shueting remained silent, obviously feeling the same way. When Yang Kai returned to the wing room, he naturally stepped up refining the Emperor treasure. Wen Zishan has made it clear that he will go to Luiying Peak to gather after 7 days, so there is really not much time left for him. While comprehending the experience left by the ancestors of the Qin family, he strengthened the connection between himself and Bai Baijian. Wen Zishan was right in saying a word. Today, he can't even unleash the power of 1,000,000 swords. He can hit Shui Yi severely with one move. Most of it is his own power, and only a small part is the power of Emperor Bao. That's all. Time flies, and a few days pass by. On this day, Yang Kai was in closed-door cultivation. Suddenly, his expression changed and he opened his eyes. At the same time, an unusual tidal force surged up between the heaven and the earth. This mighty force is extremely majestic, profound, and unpredictable. He listened carefully, and there was some strange sound faintly coming. Yang Kai's expression was dignified, and he came to the outside of the hall with a sway. The sky is dark, the earth is hazy, and there are huge shadows covering the sky, as if some huge monster is flying from above. Yang Kai looked up and was stunned in place. In the sky, a huge white bird was slowly flying by. The white bird was ordinary in shape, and at first glance, it looked like a pigeon that had been magnified countless times, but the coercion emanating from it was as thick as a mountain. "What is this? Holy Spirit?" Yang Kai was puzzled. And judging from the flying direction of this giant pigeon, it seems to be flying towards the main peak of the Qingyang Mountains. Shish! Figures emerged from all directions, apparently startled by this force. And above the main peak, Wen Zishan's figure flashed and appeared strangely. He stared at the giant pigeon flying towards him, and a dignified expression appeared on his usually cynical face. After a while, the giant pigeon flew above Wen Zishan. The brilliance flashed, and the giant pigeon suddenly became the size of an ordinary pigeon, and the astonishing coercion and power fluctuations also disappeared in this instant. The white dove didn't stop, it rammed straight towards Wen Zishan, and Wen Zishan didn't intend to stop or move, just stood there. Only about 10 feet away from Wen Zishan, the white dove suddenly exploded, turning into specks of fluorescent light, covering Wen Zishan's whole body, and the fluorescent light slowly penetrated into Wen Zishan's skin and gradually disappeared. Whoosh whoosh. The people who followed the white pigeon appeared next to Wen Zishan one after another. They were the emperor-level powerhouses of the Qingyang Temple. Chu Ran frowned, staring at the change of Wen Zishan's expression, without saying a word. Chen Qian and Gao Shueding stood side by side, they both seemed to know something and waited quietly. One of the middle-aged men frowned, and said softly to Gao Shueding who was beside him, "Elder Gao, that thing just now, could it be a message from that lord?" Gao Shueding nodded. "It should be, but I have only heard about it, and have never seen it with my own eyes." The middle-aged man's expression was startled. "You actually sent a message to that lord? It seems, the world has changed a lot." Everyone was indifferent, feeling uneasy. Everyone present was in the emperor prestige realm, if ordinary things were not worthy of their worries, but the current situation was different. There was a messenger from that lord in the Qingyang Temple. If nothing major happened, that adult would not be able to mobilize the crowd like this. But now, the only one who can know the accurate news is Wen Zishan himself, who has accepted the subpoena. So they all looked towards Wen Zishan, wondering what the hell happened. But from the change of Wen Zishan's expression, they couldn't see any clues at all. They were anxious but helpless. After a while, Wen Zishan exhaled lightly, and read softly, "There is such a thing. Lord Hall Master." Chu Ran was the first to be unable to bear it any longer, and stepped forward to speak. When he was about to ask clearly, Wen Zishan interrupted him, explaining, "Master Tianshu sent a message, this time the 4 seasons the place, the situation has changed." Tianshu, Great Emperor. The middle-aged man who spoke before couldn't help but let out a low cry, and cheered up. "It's really Tianshu, Great Emperor." Among the top 10 emperors, except for a few who founded the Zongmen forces and sit at the helm of the Zongmen, most of them are gods and dragons. A sloppy beggar begging in the cold wind by the side of the road was transformed by the Emperor of the Red Dust. If someone can win their favor, great fortune will come. Emperor Tianshu is also unpredictable. Since he is titled Tianshu, he naturally has abilities that other emperors do not have. Emperor Tianshu can see into the secrets of heaven, see through the past, and see through the future. He is the most mysterious one among all the great emperors. Although many people in the world know that he lives in Tianji Valley, but few people know where this Tianji Valley is. It is not even possible to find out which region of the star realm the Valley of Secrets is in. The land of the 4 seasons, how could Master Tianshu come forward? Chu Ran looked bewildered. Although the secret realm of the Land of 4 Seasons is relatively famous in the Southern Territory, it did not involve the entire Star Territory after all. According to the temperament of Emperor Tianshu, he should not pay attention to the opening of such a medium secret realm. So, the situation has changed. Wen Zishan frowned. This time, the Land of the 4 Seasons has a connection with the Sea of Broken Stars. "What?" Chu Ran exclaimed. "Broken Star Sea?" Gao Shueding also changed her pretty face slightly. Sea of Broken Stars is also a top-secret place. Few people know where it is. Only the powerhouses of Emperor Senior Realm know that Sea of Broken Stars flows in the gaps in the space of the Star Realm, and there is no fixed location at all. And the Sea of Broken Stars is exactly where the famous Heaven Devourer Emperor was buried. It can even be said that it was precisely because of the death of the Heaven Devourer that the Sea of Broken Stars was born. Rumor has it that the Sea of Broken Stars contains the mystery of becoming the Great Emperor, and also hides many secrets and supernatural powers of the heaven-devouring Great Emperor. Such a place is extremely attractive to Emperor Senior Realm. It's a pity that warriors at the Emperor Senior Realm level can't enter the Sea of Broken Stars at all. It seems that the powerhouses at the Emperor Senior Realm are repelled by the power of laws there, so only warriors at the Dao Source Realm level can enter. Every time the fragmented star sea opens, the entire star world will become active. All the major sects sent their disciples to enter it, trying to find the mysteries and opportunities left by the Emperor, hoping to achieve achievements that are astonishing in the past. Sea of Broken Stars is a secret realm that is much more important than the Land of 4 Seasons. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2131 Summer Show. When Zishan said this, everyone immediately understood why the opening of a mere land of 4 seasons could alarm Emperor Tianshu. When Emperor Tianshu was wiped out, Emperor Tianshu also participated in it, and it was because of his supernatural powers that he calculated the whereabouts of Emperor Tianshu and saw his end. Otherwise, who would dare to act hastily when facing the #1 powerhouse in the star realm back then? That's not what suicide is. Lord Tianshu, what did he say? Gao Shueding asked nervously. When Zishan said, actually, it's not that serious, but this time there will be a star seal in the land of the 4 seasons, which makes people a little unpredictable. Star seal, Chu Ran frowned, the certificate for entering the Sea of Broken Stars. Okay, but, I know what you want to say. When Zishan waved his hand, over the years, before the star fragment sea opened, the star seals would appear immediately, so he never thought that the star seals would appear in a certain secret realm among them. But this time it was probably a coincidence. It happened to coincide with the opening of the land of 4 seasons. Anyway, it was something that appeared immediately. Since I got the message from Master Tianshu, let the disciples work hard to find it. The number of star seals does not matter. In the future, there will be no room for sloppy entry into the quota of star fragment sea disciples. My lord's words are indeed the same. Chu Ran thought for a while, then nodded and said, in that case, then pass on the order to let the disciples work harder. By the way, my lord, since I am young Yangshan Temple received a message from Lord Tianshu and other forces. Anyone with a little strength will definitely get it. When Zishan said. In this way, in order to compete for the star seal, the experience in the land of the 4 seasons this time may be several times more dangerous than previous years. Chu Ran couldn't help showing a worried look. When Zishan smiled, and said, saplings always have to go through wind and rain, take care of them several times, they can't grow up. The master of the palace said so. Chu Ran said respectfully. Okay, since things have changed, let's leave earlier. Pass the order, and everyone will gather and set off tomorrow morning. When Zishan turned his head to look at Gao Shueding, and said in his mouth. Yes, Gao Shueding replied. When Zishan grinned again, and said, Elder Gao, don't forget what you promised me. Gao Shueding's pretty face changed slightly, she gritted her teeth and said, does it have to be like that? When Zishan laughed and said, what? Can't you go back on your word? That's not good, people can't stand without faith. Gao Shueding said bitterly, this subordinate understands. I will definitely not call Lord Palace Master, just disappointed. When it came to the end, she looked like she was gnashing her teeth, and there were accusations of blood and tears in her beautiful eyes. I'll wait and see. When Zishan laughed loudly, seeming to be in a good mood, and disappeared in a blink of an eye. Everyone cast puzzled looks at Gao Shueding, not knowing what happened between her and the Palace Master. Sister Gao, Chen Qian said worriedly. I don't need to say anything, I will know tomorrow. Gao Shueding's mood was extremely bad, and her mood was a little abnormal. Her breasts rose and fell violently, as if she was so angry that she had no desire to explain. Okay, it was night, and Yang Kai got the news that he would go to Luiying Peak to gather the next day. To his surprise, it was Xiao Bai who brought him the news. After the other party dropped a word coldly, he left without even having a conversation with him. Yang Kai naturally didn't care about this matter, but vaguely guessed that the early assembly should be related to what happened during the day. The next day, he got up early in the morning and went straight to the direction of Luiying Peak. Not for a while, then came to the square on the peak. Here, a lot of people have gathered, some are from the Dao origin realm, and some are from the Emperor Senior realm. Chu Ran and Chen Qian, who Yang Kai met last time, are among them, seeing him coming. I just glanced at him and didn't pay any more attention. But those Daoyuanjing disciples all looked at Yang Kai curiously. It seems that the battle between Yang Kai and Shui Yi has been rumored, so everyone is very interested in him, a stranger. After realizing that he is really only Daoyuan first level, a few people can't help but change slightly. Xiao Bai also stood among the crowd. Didn't even look at Yang Kai. Having never met these people before, Yang Kai certainly would not go to make fun of himself, so he found a corner where there was no one, and stood there quietly waiting. Speaking of which, since he came to Star Realm, it was the first time he had seen the gathering of disciples from the great sect, but he claimed that he was not weaker than others, so he didn't have any feelings of inferiority. While he was waiting quietly, he suddenly noticed someone walking towards him. He turned his head and looked, and saw an ordinary-looking young man in his 20s looking at him with a smile. This young man is not only ordinary in appearance, but also extremely casual in his attire, without any temperament. If such a person is thrown in the crowd, no one will pay more attention to him. But when he was walking towards him, the disciples who were gathered together in small groups and whispering in one place suddenly fell silent and turned their attention to this side. Even several powerful Emperor's senior realm players paid attention to this scene, and the girl named Chen Qian showed a worried expression. The young man stood in front of Yang Kai, looked him up and down, showed a bright and gentle smile, and said, "You are the outsider who defeated Shui Yi." Yang Kai squinted at him, and at the same time he declared his family name. His divine sense swept over this person without a trace. But what made Yang Kai's complexion change slightly was that he couldn't detect the strength of this person's cultivation base. After the divine sense swept over this guy, it seemed that this guy didn't exist. No one was there. This guy never wants to look so ordinary on the surface. Combining the reactions of those disciples and Emperor's senior realm, Yang Kai secretly deduced. The young man smiled slightly and said, "So it's Brother Yang, my name is Sha Sheng. Brother Sha has something to do with me." Yang Kai skipped the greetings and went straight to the topic, secretly vigilant in his heart. "It's nothing, just chatting casually." Sha Sheng still maintained that bright smile, and said, "I heard that Shui Yi was defeated by you, so I am a little interested in you." Yang Kai raised his brows and said, "Brother Sha, do you want to avenge your fellow sect?" "Ha ha." Sha Sheng laughed loudly, as if there was no one else around, waved his hands and said, "Brother Yang is not good to think so, I don't have that kind of thought, but although Shui Yi is a bit useless, he can weaken him by a level of cultivation. In order to defeat him, Brother Yang should have some real materials." At this point, Sha Sheng's expression suddenly became condensed, and his temperament and demeanor changed greatly, becoming arrogant and confident, and said, "People like you and me are destined to dominate this world in the future. To become the overlord of this world, let those old guys eat shit." Yang Kai had black lines on his face, and the corners of his mouth kept twitching. He instinctively felt that something was wrong, but as expected, a burst of shouting came from the side. "Bastard!" Chu Ran looked furious, and shouted at Sha Sheng angrily, "If you dare to talk nonsense, I will see if I tear your mouth." "Vice Palace Master." Sha Sheng returned to his normal appearance again, and said in a panic, "I didn't say anything about you, and that's not what I mean. You always calm down." Chu Ran seemed to be well aware of this guy's nature, so she didn't really intend to teach him a lesson. She just burst into tears and sighed, "The upper beam is not straight, the lower beam is crooked. I don't know who the upper beam in his mouth is." Sha Sheng looked at Yang Kai again, and said with a smile, "Let's get to know each other again. Brother Yang, my name is Sha Sheng, and I am the first in the sect's martial arts performance this time." "Guessed." Yang Kai nodded lightly. The Xiao Bai he met last time was the second place in martial arts in the sect, and Sha Sheng seemed to Yang Kai to be stronger than Xiao Bai, so naturally he was the first. "You and I should have the opportunity to meet many times in the future, so, let's work hard together," Sha Sheng said. "Okay, I hope Brother Sha won't be too far behind." Yang Kai smiled wickedly. The smile on Sha Sheng's face withdrew slightly, but soon, he returned to his original appearance, grinning and said, "Interesting, interesting. Brother Yang is indeed a wonderful person, much more fun than Xiao Bai." Not far away, Xiao Bai suddenly said angrily, "Who are you calling Xiao Bai? Believe it or not, I will fight you now." Sha Sheng shrugged his shoulders, looking helpless. At this moment, a purple light flashed. Wen Zishan appeared in front of everyone. He raised his eyes and wondered, "Elder Gao who leads the team, hasn't arrived yet." Chen Qian stepped forward and replied, "Sister Gao should be here soon." "Women are troublesome," Wen Zishan murmured to herself, then suddenly looked up to the sky and said with a smile, "This is it." I don't know why, but at this moment, he showed a look of great anticipation, and his eyes sparkled. Everyone followed his gaze to look over there, and they saw a white light coming from there at an extremely fast speed. After a while, white light landed in front of everyone, and the brilliance dissipated, revealing Gao Shueting's beautiful figure. "Elder Gao, the disciples have already assembled. Look." Chu Ran stepped forward and said to Gao Shueting. After all, Gao Shueting is fully responsible for going to the secret realm of the 4 seasons this time, and she will lead the disciples there the entrance, but because of some accidents, before leaving, there are still some things to tell everyone, especially the matter about the star seal is the most important thing. But Chu Ran hadn't finished speaking, her eyes widened as if seeing a ghost in the daytime, she stared blankly at Gao Shueding, and wailed deep in her heart, this woman is definitely not Elder Gao. The visual impact was so great that he almost blurted out, where is the evildoer, dare to pretend to be the elder of the hall, and quickly show the prototype. Fortunately, he swallowed that sentence at a critical moment, but the expression on his face was indescribable. To be continued. R1292. Chapter 2132 Departure. Not only Chu Ran, but also Chen Qian widened her beautiful eyes, covered her red lips with her small hand, and looked at Gao Shueding in surprise. The same is true for all the emperors, and they are all dumbfounded. Even the Emperor Senior Realm who did not change their colors in front of the landslide were like this, those disciples were naturally even more shocked. Everyone was dumbfounded, their eyeballs were about to burst, and everyone's eyes were on Gao Shueding. Everyone, why are you looking at me like this? I have flowers on my face. Gao Shueding asked lightly, the corners of her mouth slightly raised, revealing a charming smile, but her beautiful eyes were full of coldness. An inexplicable chill descended, making everyone feel as if they were falling into an ice cellar, with chills all over their bodies. Gudong. The sound of swallowing saliva sounded one after another. I'm not mistaken, Elder Gao, she, actually laughed. A voice suddenly came. I really laughed. My God, I have been worshipping the temple for dozens of years, and I have never seen Elder Gao smile. Today I finally see him, and I can die without regret. It's not real, it's not real, it's not real. It's an illusion, it's an illusion, it's an illusion. A group of Daoyuan disciples were extremely messy, and they couldn't believe what they saw. The reason was Gao Shueding's smile. You guys seem to have a lot of opinions on me. Gao Shueding kept smiling on her face, but she didn't know why. That smile seemed very blunt, and when she heard the disciples' discussions, she turned her head and looked. All the disciples didn't dare to look at her, they looked away one after another, for fear of being stared at by her. Sister Gao, Chen Qian stepped forward and asked worriedly, are you okay? What's the matter with me? Gao Shueding smiled sweetly and gritted her teeth. When she replied, her eyes were fixed on Wen Zishan. She said, I'm fine. Oh, Chen Qian didn't know what to say, and Fang's heart was in a mess. Not to mention those Daoyuan disciples, even she, the elder of the sect who was often with Gao Shueding, saw Gao Shueding smile for the first time today, and that smile seemed to have never disappeared, which made her feel weird and terrifying. I couldn't help but shuddered in my heart. Gao, Elder Gao, Chu Ran couldn't stand it any longer. Although Gao Shueding's rare smile made people feel very relieved, this frightening expression was not as cold as her usual. As the deputy hall master, he felt that it is necessary for me to come forward to persuade me, and after thinking about it, I said, don't force yourself too much. Gao Shueding turned her head to look at him, still smiling, and said, forcing yourself. I don't. Why? Master Chu thinks Ben Gong's smile is ugly. Nothing. Chu Ran was taken aback, denied it quickly, and quickly changed the subject, saying, the disciples have all assembled, Elder Gao sees if there is anything that needs to be said, please tell them. What else should I say? Gao Shueding glanced at the 20 Daoyuan realm warriors, and said bluntly, I'll talk to them on the way, now, let's go. While speaking, she opened her mouth and spit out a miniature boat. With her hands pinched together, the boat suddenly grew bigger, reaching a full length of more than 10 feet before slowly stopping. The shape of the boat is smooth and exquisite, and the carved dragons and phoenixes on the boat are obviously much better than the boat that Yong Kai got before. After all, it is a secret treasure brought out by Emperor Senior Realm. This building boat should be a high-grade flying secret treasure of Daoyuan level. Let's all go up, Gao Shueding said. All Dao Origin Realm warriors dared not hesitate, they used their body skills one after another, jumped onto the tall boat. Yong Kai was also among the crowd, got on the tall boat, and sat down cross-legged in a random place. After Gao Shueding waited for everyone to take their positions, she swayed delicately and came to the deck. Then, she turned around slowly, with a sinister grin on her face, staring at Wen Zishan who had been hiding in the crowd, gritted her teeth and said, when I come back, I will take care of you. She looked as if she had suffered some great humiliation, and she almost said that she would not be a human being unless she took revenge. All the way, with the wind, Wen Zishan waved his hand, his body trembling slightly inexplicably. Humph, Gao Shueding snorted coldly, and with the urging of Yuanli, the building boat immediately accelerated and flew towards the Qingyang Mountains. When Lu Chuan gradually disappeared from everyone's sight, a continuous burst of laughter suddenly came out. Wen Zishan's tears were about to flow from her smile, and she covered her stomach with her hands, wishing to roll hard on the ground to relieve her discomfort. While laughing, she said, You see Xiaosheng, like that, right? Ha 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 ha, it's really interesting. Hey, how decent is it? Chu Ran asked the sky with a speechless expression, shook his head sadly, flicked his sleeves and robes, and walked away against the wind. My lord, please respect yourself. The other Emperor Senior Realm couldn't stand it anymore, and felt ashamed to be with this person. You're dead. Chen Qian looked at Wen Zishan disdainfully, and said, when Sister Gao comes back from the 4 seasons, let's see if she doesn't take care of you. After saying that, everyone left one after another, leaving Wen Zishan alone. Smiling and laughing, he was also quite bored, his expression was concentrated, he straightened up, and said to himself sadly, it seems that I haven't seen Xiao Shueding's smile for many years, I really miss, obviously I liked playing around so much when I was young a clingy child, why did he suddenly become so independent and cold when he grows up? Well, it really is the 18th change of a female college student. On the upstairs boat, everyone was silent. Each of the 20 Dao source realms had to mobilize their source power silently to resist the icy cold coming from ahead. Gao Shueding has been standing at the front of the deck, but since she set off until now, she has exuded a biting coldness, which seems to be able to freeze the soul of a person. From time to time, Gao Shueding would laugh nervously, making people feel creepy. At this moment, who would dare to touch Gao Shueding's bad luck? That's why everyone dared not speak, even dared to discuss in a low voice. Each and every one of them embraced their strengths and guarded their weaknesses, watching their noses with their eyes and their hearts with their noses. Qingyang Temple has 20 quotas to enter the land of 4 seasons, which were originally owned by the top 20 disciples of Daoyuan realm in Zhongmen Yanwu, but after Shui Yi was defeated by Yang Kai, an outsider, was added. Among the 20 people, 7 were women, and the others were all men. Yang Kai only knew Xiao Bai and Sha Sheng among them, but he didn't know the names of the others. However, he didn't bother to inquire about it. His main purpose of going to the land of 4 seasons this time was to bring disaster and disaster. As long as he could find this kind of spiritual fruit, he would live up to Qin Chaoyang's entrustment. The building boat is indeed a Daoyuan level top-grade secret treasure, and it flies very fast. No obstacles were encountered along the way. After all, there is an Emperor Senior Realm powerhouse sitting in the town, and he is also an Emperor Senior Realm who is in an extremely bad mood. The fierce murderous intent emanating from it makes any warrior who perceives it stay away, lest a disaster will happen accidentally. This situation lasted for 3 full days. 3 days later, Gao Shueding, who had been standing in front of the deck with her back to everyone, suddenly turned around. Realizing this, everyone's expressions were fixed, and they quickly opened their eyes to look at her, feeling uneasy deep in their hearts. But after seeing Gao Shueding's state, everyone couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Because at this moment, Gao Shueding seems to have returned to her usual indifferent and cold appearance, and the weird smile on her face has disappeared. Yang Kai heard the secret exhalations of many people. Sure enough, Elder Gao like this is reassuring. Sha Sheng said while patting his chest with lingering fear, Elder Gao before was so different, it really scared me to death. As soon as he said this, Xiao Bai secretly screamed that something was wrong, and slapped him on the face. Sha Sheng was stunned by the beating, and glared at Xiao Bai and said, Xiao Bai, you sneak attack me. Despicable and shameless, believe it or not. Before he finished speaking, Sha Sheng shivered involuntarily, raised his head stiffly, looked at Gao Shueding who appeared in front of him strangely, and looked down at him from a high position. The corners of his mouth twitched, and said weakly, Elder Gao, disciple. Did I say something wrong? What's the matter? Gao Shueding replied lightly, and then suddenly pursed her lips into a smile, and said, I frighten you to death. Is it like this? Sha Sheng's face turned green. As soon as Gao Shueding stretched out her hand, she lifted Sha Sheng up unexpectedly, and then threw it out like throwing a piece of trash. Her movements were freehand and flowing. Elder Gao, Sha Sheng's shout came from afar, but his whole body turned into a small black spot. Okay, the annoying guy is gone. Gao Shueding clapped her hands casually, glanced at everyone, and said lightly. All the disciples she saw lowered their heads to avoid making eye contact with her. This idiot, Xiao Bai cursed secretly in his heart. At the same time, he glanced back and saw Sha Shengmao trying his best to chase this way. Soon caught up with the boat. It's just that there is a forbidden light curtain on the upstairs ship. If Gao Shueding doesn't open the forbidden light, Sha Sheng can't get in anyway, so he can only stick to the light curtain, constantly shouting and begging for mercy. Gao Shueding turned a deaf ear to it, becoming agitated, and even waved her hand to block the sound. Many people looked at Sha Sheng sympathetically, with sympathy in their hearts. There is something I need to tell you, Gao Shueding said suddenly. Everyone held their breath and looked at her intently. The land of the four seasons this time is a little different from previous years. Gao Shueding continued, you should have obtained the information about the land of the four seasons before you set off. I don't need to say anything about this, but this time the land of the four seasons in the land, there will be star seals. Star seal, Xiao Bai's expression changed, as if he had thought of something, he asked in surprise, the star seal related to the broken star sea. Gao Shueding glanced at him approvingly, and said, that's right, it's the star seal related to the Sea of Broken Stars. The star seal is the certificate to enter the Sea of Broken Stars, and those who get the star seal can enter it when the Sea of Broken Stars opens. So, this palace needs you to work hard to find and obtain star seals in the land of four seasons, this is also your first and only task. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendation, monthly pass, your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2133 Nameless Valley. However, because of the appearance of the star seal, the land of the four seasons will be much more dangerous this time than in previous years, so besides looking for the star seal, the most important thing for you to remember is to ensure your own safety. You are all sects. In the future, anyone who dies will be a loss to the sect, so I want you to fight to get out. Yes, thank you Elder Gao for your concern. All the disciples responded in unison. For more latest chapters visit Elder Gao, what exactly does that star seal look like? Xiao Bai asked. The star seal, the shape and pattern are not fixed, but if you get it, it will be imprinted on a certain part of your body and turned into a pattern. If you really have a chance to get it, you will naturally know it. Disciple understands. Xiao Bai nodded. In addition, the star seal can be transferred. After you bring it out, you can transfer it to the sect. Of course, in return, any of you who get the star seal will be eligible to enter the Sea of Broken Stars in the future. When everyone heard the words, their breathing couldn't help but stagnate, and they seemed extremely excited. Then, what if the disciple is lucky enough to get two or more? Xiao Bai asked again. Gao Shueding said, keep one for myself, and hand the others to the Zongman, and the Zongman will give you corresponding rewards. Speaking of this, she suddenly turned her head to look at Yang Kai and said, you are the same. Me. Yang Kai looked surprised. That's right. Gao Shueding nodded lightly, although you are not a disciple of my Qingyang temple, since you occupy a place in my temple, you must naturally abide by the rules. Okay. Yang Kai nodded helplessly, he also couldn't twist his big legs with his arms. It is estimated that when he comes out from the land of four seasons, Qingyang temple will check his body in detail. See if you have obtained something like a star seal. That's all I want to say, the rest, there's nothing to say, you can do it yourself. Gao Shueding didn't say a word, and after she finished speaking, she returned to the bow of the ship again. Standing there quietly, like a statue, motionless. Outside the building boat, Sha Sheng still kept pace with the building boat, showing a pitiful look, and opened his mouth to shout. From the looks of it, he should be begging for mercy. But Gao Shueding didn't even look at him. Sha Sheng had no choice but to cast his eyes on Xiao Bai, as if hoping that Xiao Bai could say something nice for him. Xiao Bai decisively turned his head in another direction. On the upstairs boat, Yang Kai frowned slightly. Deep in thought. He was considering whether to ask Gao Shueding for a piece of information about the land of four seasons. However, this woman seemed to be a little moody, and because of what happened before, Yang Kai didn't really want to have any contact with her, so as not to be caught by her. Just when he was hesitating, he suddenly felt someone stabbing him quietly. He looked back and found that a woman sitting not far from him was looking at him with her red lips pursed. This woman looks about 20 years old, but her real age must be more than that. He should be tall, fair-skinned, and pretty. A head of elegant and moving hair. What's the matter, girl? Yang Kai asked curiously. You don't have this, do you? This is for you. As the woman spoke, she handed a jade slip to Yang Kai. Yang Kai raised his brows, stretched out his hand to take it, and swept his spiritual mind inside, and after finding out the content recorded in the jade slip, he couldn't help but be overjoyed. Said, "This is what is recorded in this jade bamboo slip is impressively the information of the Land of the Four Seasons. The Land of Four Seasons opens every time Qingyang Temple will send disciples into it, so they are quite familiar with the internal situation. The information recorded in this jade slip not only includes the dangerous and restricted places of the Four Seasons land, but also the names of various monsters, the general division of strength, and even an outline map." He was still considering whether to ask Gao Shueding for such a document just now, but he was a little hesitant, but he didn't want someone to take the initiative to give it to him. Adding icing on the cake is not as timely as sending charcoal in the snow, so Yang Kai's favor for this woman has greatly increased. The other party probably also guessed that he didn't have such a thing, so he quietly gave himself a copy. From this point, it is not difficult to see that this woman has a very good heart. "Thank you very much, girl, how dare I ask you how to call her?" Yang Kai sincerely thanked him. The other party did this as a kindness to himself, he must know his name. "Murong Xiao Xiao." Yang Kai nodded, and when he was about to say something more, Xiao Bai suddenly said, "Xiao Xiao, why are you talking nonsense with an outsider?" Hearing this, Murong Xiao Xiao stuck out her tongue at Yang Kai, not to disobey Xiao Bai's intentions, so she could only keep silent. Yang Kai Dao. Girl's kindness, Yang has written it down. Small matter. Murong Xiao Xiao smiled slightly and didn't care. "Brother Xiao Bai." Yang Kai turned his head to look at Xiao Bai again. "Who are you calling?" Xiao Bai's expression turned cold. "Brother Xiao." Yang Kai corrected himself. "Although I'm not a disciple of Qingyang Temple, but since everyone wants to enter the Land of Four Seasons together, they can be regarded as companions." "Who is your partner?" Xiao Bai looked dismissive. "You have robbed Shuiyi's quota, sooner or later I will settle accounts with you." "Brother Xiao, why bother?" Yang Kai shook his head and sighed. "Maybe in the Land of Four Seasons, you have something to rely on me for." "Only by you." Xiao Bai snorted coldly. "If there is really something that Xiao can't handle, it's useless to rely on you." "If you think so, then I have nothing to say." Yang Kai smiled bitterly and shook his head. Seeing it like this, Xiao Bai has completely hated himself, but it's no wonder that he and Shuiyi should have a good relationship, and he can be regarded as stealing Shuiyi's spot. As a senior brother, it is naturally impossible for him to give himself any favors face, color. If he is talking and laughing with himself now, then there is a real problem. It's just human nature. Gao Shueding also didn't care about the meaning of the confrontation between these Dao Source realms, but just stood quietly in place and sent the building boat to fly. Time flies, 5 days passed. On this day, a huge valley appeared ahead. In that valley, there were many figures, gathered in groups, as if they were waiting for something. And from the crowd, there were even auras of several Emperor Senior Realm powerhouses. Realizing this, Yang Kai's expression shook, and he realized that he should have arrived somewhere. The information Qin Zhaoyang provided to himself was similar to what was recorded in the jade slip given by Murong Xiao Xiao. The entrance to the Land of Four Seasons was in an unnamed valley. It is attractive to stop, but before the opening of the Land of Four Seasons, there is a strong spiritual energy gathering. After a certain level, the entrance to the secret realm is opened and lasts for 33 days. 33 days later, the entrance will be closed, and at that time, warriors who are still in the Land of the Four Seasons will not be able to come out. The warriors who stayed in the valley should be the warriors who arrived here in advance. From this point of view, Qingyang Temple came relatively late, because in the valley, the location is better, and the place with strong spiritual energy has already been occupied. The tower boat came slowly, and the warriors under the valley obviously noticed it, and they looked up one after another. After seeing the Qingyang Temple logo on the tower boat, many people's expressions froze. After all, the Qingyang Temple is considered the top sect in the entire southern region, and this building boat alone represents a kind of authority and identity. From the information recorded in the jade bamboo slips, Yang Kai learned that top sects such as Qingyang Temple have 20 places to enter the Land of Four Seasons, Tianwu Holy Land, Wuhua Palace, Ziwen Chamber of Commerce, and the same is true for the Qiao Chamber of Commerce. As for the Star God Palace, the overlord of the Southern Territory, it has 40 places exclusively, which is twice as many as the Qingyang Temple. The sects further down have about 10 places. There are even some sects with only 3 or 5 places. How these quotas are divided, Yang Kai is not very clear, but it must have been calculated and coordinated carefully. However, judging from the 400 or 500 people gathered below, there are also a lot of sects in the southern region. Gao Shueding stood at the bow of the boat, just watched for a while, then found a place to let the boat land. After all the disciples got off the building, she put away the secret treasure again. You guys rest and recuperate here, don't cause trouble, I'm going to discuss some things with other adults. After she left a word, she turned and left. Everyone seemed to have expected this, so it was not surprising. They each took out the things they had prepared in advance from their space rings and set up tents one by one. Huh, one person gasped, and suddenly landed from the sky, like a meteorite falling from the sky, smashing a big hole in the ground. Yang Kai took a closer look and found that this guy was Sha Sheng, who Gao Shueding had been deliberately ignoring. He didn't forget it, he had been chasing the boat for 5 full days, relying only on his own strength. He didn't get left behind too much, and arrived here with everyone. Even though he was short of breath at the moment, there was no sign of exhaustion. Finally, arrived, Sha Sheng looked weak, looked at Xiao Bai sadly, and said, Xiao Bai, you are too mean. A vein twitched on Xiao Bai's forehead, and he wisely ignored him. Brother Yang, you didn't even say good things to me. It made me fly all the way. Sha Sheng put his hands on his knees, rolled his eyes at Yang Kai, and said, you are so indifferent to me, in the future we will return. Why are you laughing proudly at the world together, huh? Yang Kai said helplessly, I'm just an outsider, it's none of my business. Hey, forget it, you people are really unreliable. Sha Sheng waved his hands and sat down on the ground, as if a dying fish had finally returned to the water, with a satisfied expression on his face. Yang Kai glanced at him, ignored him, found a seat where there was no one else, and sat down cross-legged. In the current situation, it is obvious that there is still some time before the opening of the 4 Seasons land, and there are so many masters here, he doesn't want to run around, so as not to cause any trouble, so he simply sits and rests in the place where everyone gathers in the Qingyang Temple. Q. Chapter 2134 Impermanence. Time passed slowly, and gradually scattered warriors came here from all over. But the number is not many, presumably they are all small sects or family clan warriors far away from here. After they came here, they were also very smart to find a place where there was no one to settle down. People who are acquainted with each other will naturally gather in one place, ready to join forces in the land of 4 seasons and do a big job. Those who can enter the land of 4 seasons are all warriors at the level of Daoyuan. Void King Realm warriors do not have this qualification at all, and entering it is just looking for death. However, this does not mean that the land of the 4 seasons cannot allow the strong emperor to enter. In fact, Emperor Senior Realm can also enter it, but every entry of Emperor Senior Realm will cause some instability to the entrance. Once more than 3 Emperor Senior Realm enters it, the entrance will be closed directly. As a result, the very few quotas for the Emperor Senior Realm could not be allocated at all, so under the proposal of the Star God Palace, warriors of the Emperor Senior Realm level were simply not allowed to enter the land of 4 seasons, so as not to cause the entrance to be closed in advance. This information was also learned by Yang Kai from the jade slips given to him by Mirong Xiaoxiao. While recalling the information recorded in the jade slip in his mind, he tried his best to memorize all of them, while strengthening the connection between himself and Bai Baijian. Although this emperor treasure must be returned to the Qin family, it should be able to help him a lot in the land of 4 seasons. What are you doing? Suddenly, a woman's angry shout came to his ears, and at the same time, an extremely strong force erupted from a certain position. The woman who yelled before immediately exclaimed and groaned as if she had been hit hard. Yang Kai opened his eyes suddenly, frowned and looked in the direction of the source of the sound. Because he recognized the owner of this voice, it was Mirong Xiaoxiao who gave him information about the land of 4 seasons. He was very surprised. Mirong Xiaoxiao is an elite disciple of Qingyang Temple. Her cultivation level is not low, who would dare to trouble her in this kind of place? Looking around, Mirong Xiaoxiao is biting her red lips tightly at this moment, looking in one direction with fear and anger. Beside her, another female disciple of Qingyang Temple is supporting her and asked nervously, Xiaoxiao, are you okay? Mirong Xiaoxiao shook her head, indicating that she was fine. However, judging from her slightly disturbed breath, it was obvious that she had experienced some dangerous scene just now. What she looked at was a place where a group of sources of origin gathered, and one of these warriors had an extremely strange life. This man is a man, but there seems to be an invisible dividing line in the middle of the whole body. The skin and even the hair on the left side of the body are fiery red, but the right side is snow white. Two completely different colors appear at the same time. A person's body forms a strong visual impact and gives people a completely different feeling. The left side is masculine and the right side is feminine. The person Murong Xiao glared at was precisely this person. And the hand he raised high also indicated that he was the culprit before, and there was still a trace of undissipated strength at the fingertips. A figure flashed past and stood in front of Murong Xiao, silently staring at the monster warrior. It was Sha Sheng. It's strange to say that Sha Sheng's figure, which is not considered tall at the moment, is like a thick mountain. Standing there, it gives people an extremely reliable feeling. Yang Kai frowned, stood up and walked slowly towards that side. Xiao, what happened? Sha Sheng asked calmly. Murong Xiao said. I don't know, this person attacked me suddenly just now. Oh, Sha Sheng narrowed his eyes, and said lightly, it's interesting, someone actually bullied me on top of Qingyang Temple, it's impossible to let it go. When he spoke, an extremely dangerous cold light bloomed in his eyes. The strange-looking warrior on the opposite side also cast his eyes on Sha Sheng, and the eyes of the two collided in the void, as if there were sparks splashing. The atmosphere suddenly became tense. On the side of Qingyang Temple, and the warriors who gathered on the other side, their expressions suddenly froze, secretly urging their source power. It seems that a big battle is about to break out. The movement here quickly alarmed the other warriors waiting here, like a stone thrown into a calm lake. The ripples were quickly noticed by everyone, and everyone came to watch them curiously. Sha Sheng, the strange-looking warrior suddenly raised the corner of his mouth, showing a wicked smile, and said, it seems that he knows Sha Sheng, but this is the first time he has seen him. Impermanence. Sha Sheng frowned. Yang Kai frowned. He had never heard the name Wucheng before, but judging from Sha Sheng's expression as if he was facing a big enemy at the moment, this guy is obviously not easy to deal with. This person most likely has some special physique. That's why he has such a weird body. He is Sha Sheng from Qingyang Temple. It is said that he is the #1 performer of the sect of Qingyang Temple this time. Among the warriors watching, someone immediately exclaimed, look at that, Sha Sheng's popularity is quite high. Impermanence. Isn't that the rising star of the heavenly martial Holy Land? Yes, he must be right to see him like this. It is rumored that Wucheng has a yin and yang twin body. It turns out that this ghostly appearance is really an eye-opener. Shish, keep your voice down, I heard that Impermanence is moody, ruthless and violent, in case he hears it. What are you afraid of? There are so many people here, and he can still treat me. Before the man finished speaking, he suddenly fell silent, because he found that Wucheng who was confronting Sha Sheng over there suddenly turned his head and stared at him coldly. The opponent's two pupils, one red and one white, suddenly emanated a mysterious power, which manifested in front of him, and turned into a huge red and white vortex, and from the vortex came a sensational strangulation. The force covered him. The man yelled in horror and wanted to back away in a hurry. But what made him feel terrified was that his body suddenly became so stiff that he couldn't move at all. He could only stand on the spot, his face pale, and his eyes tremblingly watching the vortex that was constantly spinning and enveloping him. What? Bump. With a loud bang, the person's head exploded like a watermelon smashed open by someone. Red and white things splashed in all directions, and all the warriors around hurriedly backed away. The headless corpse fell slowly, hitting the ground and splashing a cloud of dust, which was horribly red. The other martial artist who was talking to this person before saw that his companion had suffered such a tragic accident. Instead of having the idea of seeking revenge on Wucheng, he was frightened stupid and fell to the ground. The whole person seemed to have lost his soul. The two rows of teeth kept colliding with each other, making a clicking sound, and he couldn't speak a word. These two people don't know which small sector family's disciples they are, and they finally got the place to enter the land of 4 seasons, and one of them suffered disaster just because of a momentary slip of the tongue. In the place where Wuhua Palace is stationed, a handsome man in Xingyi stood there. Looking at this tragic scene, he couldn't help but snorted coldly, and said to the juniors and sisters beside him, remember, you have entered the land of 4 seasons, if you encounter Wucheng, run as far as you can, absolutely don't confront him head-on. Yes, senior brother Zhuang. Everyone responded with sympathy. After seeing such a brutal method of killing as Wucheng, how could they have the heart to compete with it? In their minds, the only one who can fight against impermanence is Zhuang Bufan. Is that the impermanence of Tianwu Holy Land? The Xingshan Palace is stationed, dressed in blue, like an elf. Lan Xuan is suspended in midair, and a handsome white-faced young man on his left is closely guarding him. At this moment, Lan Xuan frowned slightly, and asked with some displeasure. After all, she was a woman, and seeing the scene just now, she felt somewhat uncomfortable and displeased. That's right. The white-faced man nodded, and while speaking, his eyes never left Lan Xuan's delicate cheeks, and there was a look of fanatical admiration in his eyes. He said, I have fought against this guy several times before, and it is very difficult to deal with. Quote, even Brother Xiao can't deal with him, Lan Xuan said with some surprise. Xiao Chen said, if you use the Emperor's treasure bestowed by your father, you will definitely be able to defeat him, but that would be too expensive. That's it. Lan Xuan didn't take it seriously, although Xiao Chen is Xiao Yuyong's son and has the Emperor treasure bestowed by Xiao Yuyong in his hands, but how do you know that there is no Emperor treasure in Wuchang? The Tianwu Holy Land he was born in was not an ordinary force, and as the #1 rising star in the Tianwu Holy Land, it was only natural that he had an Emperor treasure to defend himself. Princess doesn't believe it. Xiao Chen vaguely sensed something, raised his brows, and said, if the princess wants to see it, I'll go now. No need. Lan Xuan waved his hand, frowned and said, I'm just talking casually. Xiao Chen said, however, impermanence dares to kill people in public, and he really doesn't take my Star God Palace seriously. Anyway, the Southern Territory is not his heavenly martial holy land. A place where you can do whatever you want. Lan Xuan was noncommittal, and while her beautiful eyes were moving, she suddenly let out a look of surprise. Her beautiful eyes revealed an expression of surprise, and she looked at a figure in the distance. It's this guy, Lan Xuan secretly said in his heart. She still remembered that the last time she broke through the Dao Source Realm barrier on the 3rd floor of the 5-color pagoda, this guy, somehow he used some means to sneak into the 3rd floor, and took away many of her broken law powers. However, it was also fortunate that he appeared, otherwise judging from the situation at the time, even if I was able to be promoted successfully at that time, some suffering would be unavoidable and my vitality might be seriously injured. Lan Xuan is very interested in this person, and wants to know exactly what method he used to sneak into the 3rd floor that should be closed without anyone noticing, and what kind of magical means he used to snatch away so much. A lot of power of law. It's just that after she came out of the 5-color pagoda, she was anxious to retreat to consolidate her cultivation, so she didn't think about this person anymore. But I didn't expect that in this valley. I saw his figure again, and he was also promoted to Daoyuan realm. To be continued. This text is provided by the Breaking Dawn update group at Woai Xiao Hua Ti. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2135 There is something to hit me. So he is a disciple of Qingyang Temple. Lan Xuan saw Yang Kai standing with a group of people from Qingyang Temple, thinking for granted. Princess, what did you say? Xiao Chen asked. Nothing. Lan Xuan shook his head. Xiao Chen frowned slightly, although Lan Xuan was not very happy and didn't want to tell him anything, but after all, she was the daughter of Emperor Mingyu with a high status, so it was not easy for him to ask questions, so he could only follow her gaze and wait to see. After arriving at Yang Kai over there, he couldn't help snorting coldly in his heart. What does the princess care about for such a small person? On the other side, after Wuchang killed the disciple of that small clan, his expression was calm, as if he had killed a cockroach casually, and continued to turn his head to look at Sha Sheng. Sha Sheng said, Brother Wuchang is so majestic. Impermanence smiled coldly and said nothing. I don't care about other people's life or death, but Brother Wuchang should give me a reasonable explanation for the attack on my junior sister. Sha Sheng squinted and looked ahead. Wuchang said, Brother Sha wants to explain. All right, my explanation is, no one can fly over my head, except the dead. Sha Sheng was taken aback. He never thought that it was such a ridiculous reason that caused him to attack Murong Xiaoxiao. Murong Xiaoxiao also came back to her senses at this moment, pursed her lips and said, I just wanted to go to the Xingshan Palace. She has an acquaintance at the Xingshan Palace, long time no see, she came here to catch up on the old days. How could she know that she was attacked by impermanence just after flying up? She was so frightened that she fell back quickly. Wuchang said, Brother Sha should be lucky, she is from Qingyang Temple, otherwise. Otherwise what? Otherwise she would have been dead. That's it, Sha Sheng grinned, and suddenly, he made a movement that everyone didn't expect. I saw him leaping forward, flying over Wucheng's head like lightning, then turned around again, and flew back quickly. After reaching a certain level, he turned around again and flew over Wucheng's head. While flying, he shouted, I flew back again, I flew over again, I flew back again, if you want to hit me. After flying back and forth several times, he simply stood directly above Wucheng's head, pinched his waist with his hands, looked down, and said arrogantly, believe it or not, I will piss on your head. While speaking, he actually lifted up his pants, as if preparing to do something special. Mirong Xiaoxiao and the other female disciples of Qingyang Temple blushed. Xiao Bai and the others even had dark lines on their faces, turning their heads away, with an expression of not recognizing this person. Ha ha ha, there was laughter from the crowd, mainly because everyone felt that Sha Sheng's behavior was too naive and too ridiculous, and it was not something a warrior at the third level of Daoyuan could do. Sha Sheng, with Wucheng's moody, violent and perverse personality, how can he allow others to be so provocative and presumptuous in front of him? So when Sha Sheng lifted up his pants, he let out a low growl, his arms shook violently, a tornado-like mighty force rushed straight into the sky, trying to swallow Sha Sheng inside. Small tricks. Sha Sheng snorted coldly, turned his hands into palms, and slapped downwards. The source force is surging, the law of heaven and earth is disordered, and a huge palm print suddenly takes shape, like a giant mountain dropped from the sky. Before it really falls, it gives people a sense of oppression that will destroy everything. Boom! The giant palm collided with the tornado, and the energy of the heavens and the earth suddenly raged violently, rushing to the four poles. And at this moment, Wucheng jumped up, clasped his hands together, one hand was fiery red, the other snowy white, two completely different auras of power came out. Under the change of spirit art, there was a complex rune hidden by his side suddenly. With the momentum of thunder, he rushed towards Sha Sheng. A dignified expression also appeared on Sha Sheng's face. As soon as the magic technique of both hands changed, the sound of metal and iron intersecting came from the void. Immediately, weapons of different shapes appeared beside him. The weapons are all transformed from the energy of the heavens and the earth, and there are many types of them. As soon as he held his hand, the countless weapons all slashed downwards as if they had received an order. Boom boom boom, a more intense sound came out, and the dazzling light engulfed the figures of Sha Sheng and Wucheng. For a while, everyone couldn't see the figures of the two clearly, and only heard the energy coming from the chaotic void. The explosion and the intersecting movement of fists and feet. Yang Kai squinted his eyes slightly, staring at the battle above, also dazzled. This is a contest between the top rising stars among the two top sects in the southern region. In other words, it can represent the highest level of the entire southern region. Such a battle is also rare for him. Not only can he compare his own shortcomings from the battle between the two, but he can also collect some intelligence. Senior brother Sha, will you be okay? Mirong Xiaoxiao had a look of self-blame at the moment. If she hadn't accidentally flew over Wucheng's head, she wouldn't have caused such trouble. How can something happen to him? Xiao Bai snorted coldly, as if he was not worried about Sha Sheng's life and death at all, and said lightly, even if an ordinary emperor senior realm strikes at him, he still has a certain chance to escape, just a mere one. How about impermanence? Yang Kai's heart moved when he heard it. Xiao Bai obviously knew some details about Sha Sheng, but he didn't make it clear, so Yang Kai naturally wouldn't ask too much. But judging from his tone, Sha Sheng's real strength is definitely not as simple as it seems on the surface. Of course, Wucheng probably didn't exert his full strength. Childish. In a remote place in the valley, where a sect called Bafengmen was stationed, a young man sitting cross-legged in meditation watched the battle in the air for a while, and commented disdainfully. Although the Bafengmen is not a top sect in the southern region, it is not bad, and it can be regarded as a level with Feixiang Palace. There is a strong emperor in the sect. So this time the land of the Four Seasons opened. Bafeng building was also fortunate to get 7 places to enter it. Among the 7 people, the levels of cultivation were uneven, some were at the 3rd level of Daoyuan, and some were at the 2nd level and the 1st level. The young man who spoke was only at the 2nd level, but looking at the attitudes of other people, it seemed that this young man followed suit. The only Daoyuan 3rd level man was a middle-aged man in his 40s. Hearing this, he smiled and said, "Junior brother Luo Yuan thinks such a fight is not eye-catching." Na Luoyuan said, it's just testing each other, what's so interesting? Is this still testing each other? Another woman from the second level of Daoyuan exclaimed, I don't think they want to kill each other right away. That's because your cultivation level is not enough. Luo Yuan said bluntly without any scruples about the face of his classmates. The woman choked for a moment, and could only laugh in a sarcastic manner. The middle-aged man said, Junior brother Luo Yuan really has a bright eye, this time we will rely on you, junior brother, in the land of 4 seasons. Hearing this, Luo Yuan frowned and said, Don't worry, this time the land of 4 seasons, I will definitely call the Bafangmen famous in the southern region, but I am not interested in bringing you garbage. When the time comes, go inside, don't come to me, or don't blame me for being rude. Seeing that he was so arrogant, everyone dared not speak out, and even seemed a little afraid of him. The middle-aged man said, Of course I won't hold back my junior brother, then you can do whatever you want. HMPH. Luo Yuan snorted coldly, then closed his eyes and remained silent. The others looked at each other in blank dismay, also full of depression. At any rate, everyone is Daoyuan level martial artist, and their strength is not too bad, but it is naturally unacceptable to be called rubbish in front of their faces. But they, who knew Luo Yuan's temper and character, didn't dare to refute anything. The battle in the void continues. Sha Sheng and Wucheng were evenly divided, and no one could do anything to the other, only the void collapsed, and the laws of heaven and earth were disordered. Enough. Suddenly, a majestic shout came out. As soon as the voice came out, Sha Sheng and Wucheng who were fighting were frozen in midair in an instant, their faces pale, and cold sweat dripped down their foreheads. 2 beams of brilliance flashed and appeared under the soles of the 2 of them respectively. Immediately, the brilliance suddenly radiated like a spider's silk, and in the blink of an eye, it turned into 2 cage-like existences, imprisoning Sha Sheng and Wucheng together in midair. The voice sounded again. Sha Sheng of the Qingyang Temple, the heavenly martial holy land is impermanent, and you fight without permission. I will punish you to confine you until the day when the secret realm is opened. I hope you will take warning. Sha Sheng's face turned green when he heard the words, and quickly said, Master Xiao, this disciple is innocent. He immediately recognized that the owner of the voice was Xiao Yuyang, the Silver Star envoy from the Star God Palace, so he hurriedly begged for mercy. How could Xiao Yuyang care about him? On the other side, Wucheng, who was also imprisoned in the air, glanced at him and snorted coldly, no ambition. You don't care. Sha Sheng rolled his eyes at him, and continued to shout, Master Xiao, you have learned a lesson, this disciple has always obeyed the rules, and if someone hadn't provoked me, I would never have done such a thing. Please let me go, Master Xiao. After shouting for a while, probably because he thought it was useless, he changed his tune and said, Okay, Master Xiao, it's fine if you put me in confinement, can you put me down, being locked up in midair like this? It's so embarrassing. Can you shut up? Wucheng didn't feel anything at first. After all, it was the strong man at the second level of Emperor Zun who punished him. It was natural that he had no power to resist, but when Sha Sheng said this, he suddenly felt, it was really embarrassing to be watched by so many people, and I suddenly became a little angry. Sha Sheng squinted at him and said, What? Did I disturb you? Noisy. Wucheng snorted coldly. You still dare to babble? Sha Sheng got angry, pulled up his pants, and said, Believe it or not, even if I do this, I will still slap you in the face. I have a good wind here. Wucheng heard the words, the corners of his mouth twitched a few times, took a deep breath, and closed his eyes wisely. Others are shameless, but he can't. Just left a cruel sentence, saying, When you enter the secret realm, you will fight for the top. To be continued. This text is provided by the Dawn Update Group at ch8296929 Dian Hanji. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendation votes and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2136 Goodbye Bian Yuqing. A battle between dragons and tigers. Because of the interference of the powerful Emperor Senior Realm, the invisible was resolved in this way. Is this enough? At the same time, Xiao Yuyang looked at Gao Shueting and Chen Wenhao and asked somewhere in the Xingshan Palace residence. Gao Shueting said, Master Lao Xiao is here. Chen Wenhao also nodded slightly. Although the up-and-coming stars of the 2 sects met a bit unhappy when they met, it did not affect the relationship between the emperors of their respective sects. In their view, it was nothing more than young people's eagerness to win. Who hasn't been through this phase? It's okay, but the 2 little guys are quite active. Xiao Yuyang chuckled. Elder Gao has Sha Sheng under his sect, and Brother Chen has Wucheng under his sect, it's really enviable. Feng Ming suddenly said sourly from the side. Gao Shueting glanced at him and said, isn't there a Zhuang Bufan in Wuhua Palace? Feng Ming said with a smile, although Bufan is famous, but his physique is just ordinary, how can he be compared with those two little guys? Didn't Brother Feng pass down your hall's upside-down illusory secret art? Chen Wenhao looked at Feng Ming and said, why should you be humble at a time like this? Excessive self-modesty would be hypocrisy. Hee hee. Feng Ming grinned and responded with a smile. Okay, how long do you want to test each other? Xiao Yuyang couldn't help but rolled his eyes. It's a good thing for the little ones to be active, and it's fine for the old guys to watch, but don't get involved, everyone is from the southern region, internal chalk is not good. Master Xiao is right. Everyone nodded in unison. By the way, Lord Xiao, Gao Shueting said suddenly, the last time I waited for 3 people to go to the Star God Palace to ask for advice, do you have any response? Hearing this, both Feng Ming and Chen Wenhao turned serious and listened intently. Xiao Yuyang frowned, and pondered for a while before saying, about the ancient great demon, the emperor said that the great demon did not perish, but hibernated, but the emperor does not know exactly where it is dormant. Even the emperor doesn't know. Feng Ming's expression changed. The emperor only said 8 words to me. Xiao Yuyang said in a deep voice. Which 8 characters? Gao Shueting asked. Looks like dead but not dead, seems alive but not alive. What does this mean? Feng Ming was confused. Xiao Yuyang spread his hands. I don't understand either. But please rest assured that the ancient monster has been sealed for so many years, and has long since lost his supernatural powers. If he dares to show up and do evil in the future, I will personally take care of it. With Mr. Xiao's words, I can rest assured. Chen Wenhao heaved a sigh of relief and nodded. The last time he and Feng Ming Gao Shueting teamed up against the ancient demon, but unfortunately at the last moment, he fell short and was trapped in a dark and boundless world by the ancient demon's amazing magic power. After they escaped, the demon disappeared. In desperation, he had no choice but to go to the Star God Palace to ask to meet Emperor Mingyu, hoping to get some instructions from the emperor. It's a pity that the 3 of them went to the Star God Palace but failed to meet the emperor, so they could only tell Xiao Yuyang and let him convey it on his behalf. As soon as Gao Shueting arrived here, she rushed to look for Xiao Yuyang, just to know the information about the devil. Okay, let's not think about the devil for now, let's talk about the land of the 4 seasons this time. Xiao Yuyang said. As soon as everyone heard it, they knew that he was going to talk about the star seal, and their expressions immediately became serious. At the residence of Qingyang Temple, Yang Kai, who was recuperating, was sitting cross-legged in meditation. He opened his eyes and looked in a certain direction. Frowning and pondering for a while, he stood up and walked over there. Junior brother Yang. Seeing this scene, Mirong Xiao hurriedly called out, where are you going? She was also bitten by a snake for 10 years and was afraid of well ropes. Just now, she wanted to go to the Xingshan Palace to talk to her old friends, but she didn't expect to cause a storm, which caused Sha Sheng to be locked up and blamed herself a lot. Seeing that Yang Kai wanted to leave the station at this moment, he hurriedly asked with concern. Walk around. Yang Kai smiled slightly. Then you have to be careful. Mirong Xiao didn't stop but just told. Yang Kai nodded slightly and continued to walk forward. Outsiders live and die, what do you care about so much? Xiao Bai snorted unhappily beside him. Mirong Xiao said. Junior brother Yang came with us after all. You still call him junior brother? Xiao Bai glared at Mirong Xiao, he is not my temple disciple. Mirong Xiao stuck out her tongue and said, Senior brother Xiao, you really don't like him. I really don't like it. Xiao Bai snorted coldly, I just don't like it. Mirong Xiao shook her head slowly and didn't say much. On the other side, Yang Kai walked all the way until he walked out of the valley and came to a dense forest before stopping. The breeze was bleak, and the leaves rustled. Yang Kai sighed and said, since you asked me to come over, why didn't you show up? As soon as he finished speaking, he heard a burst of giggling laughter, and immediately, a beautiful figure suddenly appeared on the top of a tree, looking down at him from a high position. Those beautiful eyes were full of curiosity and weirdness. She stared at Yang Kai, clicked her tongue, and said, I really didn't expect that in just such a short time. You have already been promoted to Daoyuan realm, you are indeed a strong man from a low-level star field, and your aptitude is really extraordinary. Yang Kai looked up at her, smiled and said, Bian Hufa, long time no see. The woman who was quietly transmitted to him earlier and told him to come here to meet her was Bian Yuqing, one of the 4 great protectors of the Jade Feather sect. At that time, it was this woman who took him into the Jade Feather sect. That was also the first stop for Yang Kai to come to Star Boundary. Bian Yuqing knew some details about him, and understood that he was a martial artist from a low-level star field. It was also for this reason that Bian Yuqing would accept him as his disciple, otherwise Bian Yuqing would not even look at him with Yang Kai's cultivation at the 2nd level of the Void King. This woman has the cultivation base of Daoyuan 3rd level. Seeing Bian Yuqing, Yang Kai thought of Lu Qianyan who was with him at that time. Like him, this woman came from a low-level star field, but she came from a place called the Great Wilderness Star Field, and was also accepted by Bian Yuqing. Entered the Jade Feather sect. It's a pity that Yang Kai and Lu Qianyan separated when they fled later. After such a long time, I don't know how Lu Qianyan is doing. It's rare that you still remember Ben Gong, which makes Ben Gong very pleased. While he was thinking, Bian Yuqing smiled sweetly and exerted a little force on her feet, and she slowly fell in front of Yang Kai like a goddess descending from the sky. Bian Hufa's kindness and virtue, the boy will remember it in his heart, how can he forget it? Yang Kai smiled slightly. Although Bian Yuqing may have had other purposes in bringing him into the Jade Feather sect, this woman did not severely abuse him, and of course she did not take care of him on purpose, so Yang Kai's attitude towards her was relatively flat, but it was true that she said so. Thanks Dade for the thought. Bian Yuqing looked at him, and said, the ability to open your eyes and tell lies is good. If you really remember my kindness, how could you come over so reluctantly? Where do I have it? Yang Kai looked aggrieved, it's just. I didn't expect to meet Bian Hufa here. He paused and said, Bian Hufa didn't come alone, did he? When he said this, he glanced aside intentionally or unintentionally. Bian Yuqing raised her eyebrows, and said in surprise, my boy has a very keen sense. She waved to the side and said, don't hide, come out. After the words fell, the other person laughed loudly, haha, junior brother Yang, after a long absence, you still have the same demeanor. Yang Kai looked aside with a smile, cupped his fists and said, senior brother Ko. This person is Ko Wu. She is also Bian Yuqing's confidant. Ko Wu was the first Daoyuan realm expert that Yang Kai saw after coming to Star Boundary, and this guy also caught him and Lu Qianyan in front of Bian Yuqing. However, unlike Bian Yuqing, who was a hands-off shopkeeper, Ko Wu took care of Yang Kai a little during those days, so Yang Kai's impression of him was not bad. Junior brother Yang is already at the Dao origin realm, which really surprised Ko. Ko Wu looked Yang Kai up and down with a surprised expression on his face. After all, when he first met Yang Kai, the other party was at the 2nd level of the Void King, and knew nothing about the Star Realm. I don't understand anything, how long has it been? The other party has already reached the same level as me. No wonder there are rumors that the warriors from low-level star fields all have outstanding aptitude and extraordinary potential. He didn't believe it at first, but after seeing Yang Kai, he had to believe it if he didn't believe it. It's just a fluke, Yang Kai responded casually. However, what surprised me even more is that you became a disciple of the Qingyang Temple. It seems that the Qingyang Temple has put a lot of effort into you. Bian Yuqing smiled slightly. When she was watching the excitement just now, she accidentally saw Yang Kai's trace, so she secretly sent him a voice transmission and let him come out to see him. Yang Kai was in the residence of Qingyang Temple. She took it for granted that Yang Kai had already joined Qingyang Temple. If this was the case, it would make sense to be able to advance to the Dao Source Realm so quickly. The Qingyang Temple is not comparable to a small sect like the Biu sect that doesn't even have an Emperor Prestige realm. The sect has abundant resources. Hufa Bian misunderstood. Yang Kai shook his head, I am not from Qingyang Temple. You treat me as blind. Bian Yuqing gave Yang Kai an angry look. Yang Kai Dao, it's just because of some reasons, I came here with the people from Qingyang Temple. Believe it or not. So, Bian Yuqing was stunned, although she was also a little surprised, but felt that Yang Kai didn't need to deceive her on this matter, so she stopped asking. I'm really curious, which faction Bian Hufa and senior brother Ko represent? Yang Kai looked at the two suspiciously. Ko Wu Dao, of course it's the Jade Feather sect. Are you still staying in Jade Feather sect? Yang Kai's face changed, and he immediately thought of Jade Feather sect's suzerain Wu Mengchuan. This guy is a descendant of the heaven-devouring emperor. After being released from the bone prison by Yang Kai, he turned the entire Jade Feather sect upside down. Miao Qi, Tong Kong, and Zhu Junshan's 3 major sect guardians were not his opponents at all. He was beheaded on the spot. Only Bian Yuqing was out on business and escaped unharmed. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2137. The entrance opens. Ko Wu escaped because he followed Bian Yuqing out on errands. Otherwise, with Wu Mengquan's temperament at the time, it would not be surprising to have killed them all. It seems, what are you thinking of? Bian Yuqing suddenly sneered, and gritted her teeth. Stinky boy, if it weren't for you, this protector wouldn't have fallen into such a situation, and now life and death are still in the hands of others. Quote. Yang Kai's face changed slightly, he pretended to be stupid and said, what did Hufa Bian say? I don't understand. Ko Wu sighed, and said, Junior brother Yang, suzerain, you let him out, right? Yang Kai heard him ask this question, but he couldn't deny it, nodded and said, not bad. After finishing speaking, he quickly continued, but I had no other choice at the time. Brother Ko, you and Bian Hufa are not in the sect. I was imprisoned in a bone prison. I was in a dilemma. In desperation, I made a deal with Wu Mengquan. Deal. Bian Yuqing snorted. After the suzerain came out, he slaughtered all directions, and the entire Jade Feather sect was almost wiped out. Only a few people were quick enough to turn to the suzerain and survived. Yang Kai smiled and said, Bian Hufa is also one of them. Ben Gong. Bian Yuqing snorted coldly. Ben Gong was just a fluke. 1 month after that incident, Ben Gong and Ko Wu returned to the sect. How would you know that the sect has undergone major changes? Wait until you react. It was too late to escape. However, the suzerain did not kill me. Maybe, he also felt that it would not be good to kill everyone and leave him alone. Anyway, he spared my life, but, said when she got here, she said with a resentful expression on her face, this palace has been restricted by him, and I will only follow his lead in the future. So that's it. Yang Kai had a clear expression. This matter was provoked by you kid. Tell me, how do you want this palace to punish you to relieve the hatred in your heart? Bian Yuqing looked at Yang Kai gloomily, thinking of giving him a serious lesson. Yang Kai said with a smile, Bian Hufa, since you chose to take action against Wu Mengquan many years ago, you must know something, and know who he is. For such a person, either directly kill the grass, or don't provoke him. You not only provoke him, he even imprisoned and tortured him. Don't you think there will be some kind of retribution? Bian Yuqing frowned, stared at Yang Kai and said, what do you want to say? Yang Kai Dao. I just want to say that even without me, Wu Mengquan will get out of trouble, so what happened to you has nothing to do with me. Nonsense. Bian Yuqing said angrily. Yang Kai spread his hands and said, besides, isn't Guardian Bian doing well now? Even though he was banned, he is a descendant of that one. When he becomes prosperous in the future, are you still afraid that he will not be rich or honored? Bearing the humiliation for a while, that's all. Can't Guardian Bian afford to wait? Bian Yuqing looked at him coldly, and snorted, why does it sound like I've taken advantage of you? Would you like to thank you? This is unnecessary. Yang Kai waved his hand. Bian Yuqing said helplessly, anyway, it's too late to say anything now. Ben Gong and Ko Wu can only take one step at a time. Seeing that she didn't really intend to find revenge on him, Yang Kai breathed a sigh of relief. Ko Wu smiled and said, I and Bian Hufa came to the land of 4 seasons this time, and we were also ordered by the suzerain to represent the Jade Feather sect. We saw you appearing at the Qingyang temple, so we asked you to come over and ask some questions. Quote. The Jade Feather sect is a small sect, although there are no Emperor Senior Realm powerhouses sitting in it, but there are several Daoyuan 3rd layer realms, so there are more or less 2 places to enter the land of 4 seasons. The last time Wu Mengquan killed the quartet, the Bu sect was now out of favor, so Bian Yuqing and Ko Wu could only come here. Information about the land of 4 seasons. Yang Kai raised his eyebrows. That's right. Bian Yuqing nodded. Don't tell me you don't know anything. Since you can get to Qingyang temple, you must know more than us, right? Yang Kai frowned, pondered for a while and said, I do have information. But, it's a sect secret, and I can't reveal it. Bian Yuqing smiled slightly and said, if you don't tell me about this matter, if I don't tell you, who will know? Yang Kai shook his head. Bian Yuqing's face changed, and when she was about to say something more, Yang Kai said, The only thing I can tell you is, this time there will be star seals in the land of 4 seasons. Star seal. Kowu frowned, apparently not knowing what it was. On the contrary, Bian Yuqing vaguely seemed to remember something, pondered for a while, and exclaimed, "You mean, the certificate to enter the Sea of Broken Stars?" "Exactly." Yang Kai nodded. Broken Star Sea. Kowu finally came to his senses and let out a low cry with a shocked expression on his face. Yang Kai smiled and said, "To work hard, if we meet in the land of 4 seasons, maybe we still have a chance to join forces." After finishing speaking, regardless of the two of them, they walked on their own way. For him, neither Bian Yuqing nor Kowu were very familiar people, and the little care he received in the Jade Feather sect at that time was enough to pay off with the information just now. Since then, he has no grievances with these two people. If the other party has no malice towards him, then he can say anything. If he really wants to do something to him, then don't blame him for being cruel. After all, they are Wu Mengquan's people now. Yang Kai is very afraid of this descendant of the heaven-devouring emperor. At that time, Wu Mengquan actually taught him a complete set of heaven-devouring battle techniques. This was the skill of the heaven-devouring emperor himself, and it was precisely with this skill that the heaven-devouring emperor became the #1 in the star realm at that time. If Wu Mengquan had no conspiracy, Yang Kai would never believe it anyway. It's just that he really didn't understand what the other party wanted to do, and he didn't even hesitate to teach him the heaven-devouring art of war. He didn't practice this technique himself, but handed it over to the Dharma body. During this period of practice, the Dharma body has improved a lot of strength. From the Dharma body, Yang Kai also understood the heaven-defying effect of this exercise. If it weren't for his scruples, he would have been unable to resist the temptation and cultivate it by himself. Thinking wildly all the way, Yang Kai quickly returned to the Qingyang Temple's residence. Everyone is meditating quietly to recover, seize this last bit of time, and keep their own state perfect. Only Xiao Bai opened his eyes and looked at him, but he didn't say much. Time passed day by day. And with the passage of time, the aura of heaven and earth in this nameless valley became more and more intense, until finally it reached the level where the aura melted into fog. If you look down from a high altitude, the entire valley is now wrapped in a white mist. This mist is not a real mist, but a sign of the condensation of heaven and earth's spiritual energy. The cultivation environment here also reached an unbelievable level. If someone can cultivate in such a place for a long time, the speed of strength improvement is naturally extraordinary. It's a pity that this is only a sign before the opening of the secret realm. Even a sect like the Star God Palace does not have such a jaw-dropping cultivation treasure. Finally, at a certain moment on the 4th day after everyone arrived in this nameless valley, a strange sound suddenly came out. The voice was ethereal and without a trace, as if it came from the void, making it unpredictable. Immediately afterwards, the aura of the heavens and the earth suddenly oscillated and boiled, and the clouds and mist rolled and frantically converged towards a certain position. And that location is surprisingly the very center of the entire valley, and it is also the only blank area. It seems that all the sects know that the entrance to the secret realm is here, but there is no force stationed here. At this moment, all warriors opened their eyes together and looked over there. It's started. Xiao Yuyang shouted in a low voice at the station of the Star God Palace, and all the disciples were excited and gearing up secretly. The entrance is about to open. Gao Shueding looked at the 20 people in front of the Qingyang Temple, and said, "I hope that you can go together as much as possible after entering, so as to avoid being alone. If someone insists on doing something reckless, then it should be considered that the elder didn't say anything." After a pause, she continued, "I hope you all can come back safely." Sha Sheng grinned and said, "Elder Gao, don't worry, the disciples will take good care of them." Gao Shueding nodded, and said no more, but turned her head and looked towards the place where the spiritual energy gathered. At this moment, all the auras in the world are swarming towards that side, and the swirling auras cause a howling wind, and the valley is full of flying sand and rocks, but this does not affect the observation of those Daoyuan warriors. After all the aura rushed over there, it seemed as if it had fallen into a void and black hole, and it disappeared all of a sudden. At that point, space suddenly becomes unstable. And as more spiritual energy poured in, that instability became more and more obvious. Until a certain moment, the void suddenly opened, a crack visible to the naked eye. The spiritual energy continued to pour in, and the gap was getting bigger and bigger. Looking around, above the sky, it seems that a powerful person has opened a skylight. From the skylight, some scenery on the opposite side can be vaguely seen, ethereal, untraceable, twisted and changing. This situation lasted for half an hour. Half an hour later, the aura in the valley that was so thick that it turned into a mist did not exist at all, and all of it poured into the crack in the void. The entire valley, without any aura at this moment, has returned to its former depression. And the crack has become more than 10 feet long and 5 feet high. The entrance is open, someone exclaimed. Let's go. Some people couldn't wait, showing off their skills, passing over the heads of the crowd, and rushing directly towards the long and narrow entrance. That should be a martial artist from a small sect, just like the Jade Feather sect. There are only 2 places, one male and one female. It seems that they have practiced some kind of joint secret technique. Once it is cast, the speed is as fast as lightning, and the 2 of them turn into a streamer, immediately rushed into the entrance. They seem to think that getting in earlier will give them more advantages. It's just a pity that things backfired. Several emperors from the great sect just looked at them coldly, and didn't intend to stop them, they just watched quietly. Hey, Gao Shueding sighed, it seems that there are desperate guys every time. As soon as she finished speaking, 2 miserable cries came from the void. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2138 Flame Beast. The moment a man and a woman who came from a small sect of unknown origin rushed into the entrance of the Land of 4 Seasons, they were stopped by an invisible barrier and could not enter it. Not only that, but the barrier that blocked the 2 of them seemed to contain extremely ferocious killing power, directly twisting the 2 of them into a ball of minced meat and blood mist, and exploded in the air. These 2 people died in such a mysterious way. What? How so? Below, many warriors let out exclamations, and their faces turned pale all of a sudden. If the entrance to the Land of 4 Seasons is so dangerous, how can they get in? I'm afraid that more than half of the people present will not be able to pass through the entrance at all, and they will all die here. However, more Taoist realms did not change their faces, as if they had expected it. Yang Kai sighed slightly. He got the jade slips from the Qingyang temple, so he knew that those 2 people acted recklessly. If he wanted to enter the Land of 4 Seasons, he couldn't force his way in. Otherwise, no matter how high his cultivation level was, he would end up like those 2 people, with no guarantee of death corpse. If you want to enter the Land of 4 Seasons, you can only wait for a mysterious force to be guided there. This has the benefit of intelligence. If Yang Kai came here alone, if he was ignorant, he might break in directly, which would cause some unpredictable consequences. At this moment, a transparent energy ball suddenly emerged from the crack. The energy ball was like a bubble, quietly suspended in midair. When the energy ball appeared, the disciples at the Star God Palace immediately took action. 10 of the 40 disciples jumped into the bubble one after another. The bubble was twisted and deformed but never burst, which looked extremely miraculous. Strange to say, the size of the bubble seems to be just enough for 10 people to stand upright. After 10 Daoyuan people got into it, there was not much space inside. The speed drifted towards the entrance. The next moment, he got into the entrance and disappeared. After seeing this scene, those warriors who came to participate in the secret realm of the 4 Seasons for the first time knew what was going on. Obviously that bubble is the key to entering the Land of 4 Seasons. After a few breaths, another bubble emerged from the crack, and the Star God Palace once again divided 10 disciples into action. After repeating this cycle for 4 times, all the disciples from the Star God Palace left. The Star God Palace is the overlord of the Southern Territory. The first batch to enter the 4 Seasons land naturally makes people have nothing to say, but I don't know how those Emperor Prestige realms negotiated the order. After the Star God Palace, the 20 members of the Tianwu Holy Land, the disciples were divided into 2 groups, and entered the Land of the 4 Seasons in turn. Qingyang Temple is in the 3rd batch. When it was Qingyang Temple's turn, Sha Sheng took the lead, and selected 9 people to follow him into the secret realm guided by the mysterious bubble. And Yang Kai followed closely behind with the remaining 9 people. The bubbles seemed very miraculous. Yang Kai didn't feel any obstruction when he got into it, instead he seemed to have fallen into the water. The surroundings were soft, but there was no sense of suffocation. And when he was wrapped in air bubbles and passed through the cracks in the void, he didn't feel the slightest danger. The vision in front of him blurred, and when Yang Kai came back to his senses, he was already in another place. The 10 people were still wrapped in the air bubbles and suspended in the air. Soon, the air bubbles burst and ceased to exist. From the information recorded in the previous Jade Slips, Yang Kai learned that every batch of warriors who were brought into the land of the Four Seasons by the bubbles would appear in the same place, but the location of different batches of warriors was somewhat difficult to guess. So at this moment, the 10 people are still together, but looking around, there are no other warriors around, and they don't know where the dozens of people who entered the land of the Four Seasons were teleported to. The second batch of 10 people from Qingyang Temple was led by Xiao Bai. After all, Xiao Bai ranked second in the martial arts performance of the sect, second only to Sha Sheng. This was also discussed in advance, and he and Sha Sheng would each lead a team. The moment the bubble burst, Xiao Bai took out a communication compass from his space ring and poured his spiritual thoughts into it, as if he wanted to see if Sha Sheng and the others were nearby. However, after waiting for a while, there was no response. Xiao Bai had no choice but to put away the communication compass. This should be Sha Jiu, right? Murong Xiao, who had been checking the surroundings in the team, suddenly said. The place where everyone appeared was scorching hot, and the air contained extremely abundant fire-type spiritual power. The temperature was extremely high, the ground was dry and cracked, and there was little vegetation. It was obviously a hot summer domain. It should be. Xiao Bai nodded lightly. When he was about to say something more, his expression froze suddenly, and he turned his head to look in one direction. At the same time, Yang Kai's face sank, and he shouted, "Something is coming." Xiao Bai glanced at him in astonishment, secretly shocked by Yang Kai's keen senses. "What do you mean?" Murong Xiao who questioned. There was no need for Yang Kai to explain anything, just when her voice just fell, there was a sudden sound of thump, 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 as if some giant was taking steps and rushing towards this side. And the ground shook accordingly. Everyone looked shocked, and they all secretly stimulated their source power and stood on guard. The sound was getting closer and louder, and the shaking of the ground became more and more obvious. Just less than 10 breaths after Yang Kai spoke, several streamers of light suddenly appeared in front of him, galloping towards this direction crazily. The leading streamer was red and white, extremely dazzling, and exuded an aura that made everyone feel familiar and afraid. Impermanence. Xiao Bai's face darkened. He never thought that he would encounter this evil star of Tianwu Holy Land just after entering the Land of Four Seasons. He also saw the fight between Wuchang and Sha Sheng before, and secretly felt that this person was a great enemy. If he met alone, his chance of winning was less than 30%. Xiao Bai's nerves tensed all of a sudden. Because of the relationship between Sha Sheng and his previous fight, Wuchang can already be said to be the enemy of Qingyang Temple. If he wants to kill at this time, Xiao Bai has no confidence to stop him. Just as he was gritting his teeth and cursing secretly, Yang Kai's expression suddenly changed, and he shouted, "It's not for us, something is chasing them." Impermanence being chased. In the team, a male warrior's face changed abruptly upon hearing this. Impermanence is already a martial artist at the 3rd level of Daoyuan, and he is also the #1 rising star in Tianwu Holy Land. The existence that can make him flee wildly and retreat for a long time is at least equivalent to the Emperor Senior realm. It is not that there is no existence of this level in the Land of Four Seasons. Many warriors who have entered the Land of Four Seasons over the years have died at the hands of these existences, and they have no power to fight back. While speaking, the thing that was chasing Wuchang and the others was also imprinted in everyone's eyes. At a distance of about 100 feet behind Wuchang, a monster with a height of about 10 feet, covered in flames, and with red eyes moved its limbs, sprinting across the ground, trailing a long trail of red light behind him. Every time it jumps, it seems to ignore the barrier of space, and the distance of tens of feet is instantaneous, and the ground shakes accordingly. Flame Beast. Xiao Bai's face turned pale, and he exclaimed, "This place is the territory of Flame Beast." In the information recorded in the Jade Slips of the Qingyang Temple, this Flame Beast from the Sha realm was mentioned. This is a genuine 12th order monster that can exert a powerful strength equivalent to that of the Emperor. The place where the Flame Beast lives is also listed as a forbidden place in the Jade Slip, and disciples are not allowed to visit it easily. Everyone never expected that their luck would be so bad that they would appear on the territory of the Flame Beast just after being brought in. However, it seems that Wuchang and the others had even worse luck, probably appearing directly near the habitat of the Flame Beast, which attracted the pursuit. Roar. The Flame Beast, which had been chasing after Wuchang and the others, saw that it could not catch up for a long time, and roared in rage, and with the roar, a fiery red scorching light suddenly shot out from its mouth. The space was pierced all of a sudden, and the fiery red light with unimaginable lethality ran through the north and south, stretching for a distance of more than 10 miles. Impermanence reacted quickly. After sensing the murderous intent behind him, he froze and rushed upwards, avoiding the killing move by a hair, but the others were not so lucky. One of the disciples of Tianwu Holy Land couldn't avoid it for a while, and was directly rushed by the fiery red light, and turned into ashes without even making a scream. Another disciple's arm was rubbed, and it melted immediately, and he let out an earth-shattering cry. "Hurry up and run," Yang Kai shouted, and took the lead to sacrifice the source-level top-grade wooden boat, stepped on it, and once the source force was stimulated, the wooden boat flew towards the rear at a fast speed. He reminded that the rest of the 9 stupefied people in Qingyang Temple finally came back to their senses, sacrificed their own flying secret treasures, turned into streamers of various colors, and fled in the direction away from the flame beast. In fact, it is not to blame that they are not strong enough, the main reason is that the person in Tianwu Holy Land died too suddenly. Those were the elite disciples of the Heavenly Martial Holy Land, they were not from some small sect. In other words, the dead warriors were of the same level as them. It just disappeared without a sound. Getting along in a different place, if this kind of thing happened to him, he would definitely end up like this. So the scene just now had a strong visual and spiritual impact on them. Immediately after Yang Kai, the 9 escaped with all their strength, and did not stop to compete with the flame beast. Such a terrifying existence, with the strength of all the people present, there is no way to resist, and the result of impulsiveness is death. At this time, the few remaining people from Tianwu Holy Land also flew not far behind everyone. But they were also clever. Seeing that someone was taking the blame, they quickly dispersed and drove in other directions. And that Flame Beast didn't care what sector faction people belonged to. In its eyes, those who trespassed on its own territory would all die, so it still chased straight after it. To be continued, this text is provided by the Breaking Dawn Update group at. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users, please go to read.